Okay. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to the City of Toronto's Committee of Adjustment live streaming on YouTube in the PM session. We will now resume our hearing, and the first item on the agenda that we're dealing with right now is item number 6, and this is for 1268 Broadview Avenue. And we have with us the owner and the agent, Leonid Kotov.
Hi, yeah, I'm here.
Okay, good afternoon. Thank you. And
Good
we
afternoon.
also have Margaret McRae in opposition. Margaret, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Okay, perfect. Just stay with us, please. So, members of the committee, we have an application before us for 12, is it 58 or 68? 58. 1258 Broadview Avenue. This is an application to permit the creation of an additional unit in the basement and convert existing units on the main floor, and as well as a unit in the detached building as a dwelling unit. So altogether, we're looking at 5 units on the property. And there are, how many? 12 variances before us. So members of the committee, would you like to have a presentation from the applicant, or would you like to ask questions at this time?
Madam Chair, I will propose a short briefing, short presentation from the
Okay,
applicant.
and then Mohammed, if I can clarify, what exactly would you like to look for in the presentation?
I will be more interested in variance number 12, which talk about the parking spaces, shortage of 2 parking spaces, but there are 2 parking spaces are shown on the site plan. So if there is a little bit more clarity on that, that would be appreciated.
Okay, so you're looking for a response on the variance number 12 related to parking. Okay, so Leonid, member Said would like to get some additional clarification on variance number 12. And I also have a question with regards to some clarification on number of units. So I see that in total, at the end of the day, there will be 5 residential units on this lot.
Yeah.
But what I didn't see was, so there's no variance that is being requested to actually allow those units. So are these units permitted as of right?
Yeah, so quickly, there's 3 units that were approved on the site, and there was some work that I had done incorrectly without a permit, which I was advised didn't require a permit. So that's why I'm here in front of the Committee of Adjustment again and trying to clear that up, asking for apologizing for that work that I was not aware that I needed a permit. So that's why it's only the 2 additional units that you're seeing in front of you being added to the property.
But
I can elaborate on that if you'd like.
Yes, please. If you can just quickly, so there's no variance that, typically it's a single detached dwelling and a secondary suite is requested, or a third unit. But what I didn't see here was any variance requesting those additional units. So
No, because no, so those are legal. The question in front of the committee right now is legalizing an existing tenanted basement apartment and an existing garden suite that's been there since 1922, which I renovated, and I thought it was I thought that it was legal non-conforming, but then the building inspector advised me that I'm not allowed to have anyone living in there. A bunch of things happened that resulted in all this, which I'm happy to brief you on, and it's really stemming because of the pandemic, to be frank with you.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that. And then member Said wants some additional clarification on variance number 12.
So variance number 12 is with regards to the parking. So we have the 2 spaces that were on the site, and now because of these 2 additional units being legalized, there's a variance for an additional 2 parking spots. The site is on Broadview Avenue, so there's 2 24-hour bus routes, and they take you right to Danforth Station. So that's what the parking situation is. Does that clear it up?
We will check. Mr. Said?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So what I understand from your clarification over here, so these two parking spots are for the garden suite, right?
No,
It's not for?
perhaps you can pull up. No, there's ones for the basement. Sorry, the existing two parking spots are for just the property in general. So we submitted a full brief actually that has all of these details. Maybe you can pull it up. That'll be very, very helpful. And I'll show the site plan and explain everything. It's 1268. You have it noted for some reason. 1268 Broadview is just a little bit lower there. I don't know why it's noted at item number 6. Yeah, and there should be a brief that was submitted.
Applicant's brief and Appendix 1 support letter at the end, Katrine?
Yeah.
Right there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I guess the best way to do this would be if I take you to the site plan, which is, let me just pull it up on my end. So that's page number 3.
Page 184 of the PDF.
Yeah,
Right.
so right there, that's the site plan you can see. So as you can see, we have an existing detached 3-story building at the front. So that has 3 units in it already. What I'm trying to legalize is basement unit. And the 2 parking spots are in the back there. So they're for the entire site. So the variances for those 2, for the 2 additional spots are also for the entire site. The only work that actually needs to be done for this whole site is to add a basement walk-up at the front of the property, which is causing 2 of the variances. And the reason that we have to add that basement walk-up is because the building examiner wouldn't accept a large window in the basement of the property as a secondary exit, and we couldn't move that walk up to the backyard because there's an existing fire escape and HVAC equipment there. So we had to put it up in the front, but it'll be concealed, because it'll be right under the porch. So
Okay.
that's the only actual change. All of the other variances, I'm happy to walk you through them, are largely technical or existing conditions which we're just seeking to legalize because of a number of events that happened throughout this whole process.
Okay. Is that okay, Mr. Said?
Thank you. Thank you very much for the
Okay.
info.
Thank you, Leonard. Mr. Said has no further question. Any further questions? Member McKay?
Well, just following up on Member Said's question. So there'll be 2 parking spaces only, right, for this for these 5 units?
Yeah, that's right. There are two parking spaces. The lot is the lot is quite deep, but the parking radius, the turning radius doesn't allow for more spots on the site. There's only there's 2 so the whole place is tenanted right now, and there are 2 cars that the tenants have, so it is adequate for the site. And again, it's serviced by bus routes and right to Danforth stations within walking distance to the bus stations. And we also have bicycle parking in the backyard, which you can find on page number 17 of this brief as well. There's a shot there.
How far south of the Danforth is this?
This is north of the Danforth, actually.
North of Danforth. Okay.
Yeah.
And it would be the Broadview subway station, right? Yeah.
This would be the yes, Broadview subway. So it's page 17 if you're looking for it. Keep on going down. There's still a picture of the bicycle parking in the back. But yeah, it's Broadview subway station exactly, and there's the bus terminal station like 20 meters away from the property.
Okay, fine. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. So if no further questions, I don't see any questions. Let's move to speaking with Margaret McRae, who is in opposition. Margaret, are you with us?
Yes, I am.
All right, perfect. So, Margaret, we did receive your letter in writing. We have it on file and we have reviewed it. Is there anything in addition that you would like to say, in addition to what you've already advised us of?
Well, I would just like to point out something that the owner didn't mention, but supposedly there's 2 parking spots in the backyard, but both of the tenants are parking in the front yard. And there's a big truck there every day and a white sedan. And the truck parks in the on the lawn and there's the picture. So this is supposed to have a large percentage of landscaping in the front yard. And this is what the front yard looks like. It's just traffic parked there, and they aren't parked in the back. The truck probably couldn't even get through the driveway. But it's only a 25-foot lot, and you shouldn't have trucks parked in on the front yard. And landscaping is something that the bylaw requires, and this obviously doesn't have it. I think there was something else I wanted to mention. What was it? Oh, I attended the hearing 2 years ago when they were given permission for the 3 units that are already there. And at that time, East York only allowed 1 main unit and 1 secondary suite. And then they allowed them a second secondary suite. And they said the owner had to live on the property and in both the main floor and the basement. And none of these things that were set out in the previous agreement have been complied with, but it's the parking on the front lawn that bothers me the most, and also that what you saw in the backyard was a 2-story garage, and they've turned that into a dwelling space. I thought it was historic and was supposed to be left, but maybe I'm wrong. But and also, well, dwelling spaces in the backyard are not allowed, and they're supposed to be attached to the house if they are allowed. So these are things that really bother me, but the parking in particular is very annoying. And I don't think the garage should be allowed to be a suite. 5 suites on a 25-foot lot is a bit much. The lots on either side are wider, and so they can do more. So those are my comments.
Okay, thank you,
And I
Margaret.
don't think any of these things are minor. I think they're major issues, not minor issues.
Okay, thank you, Margaret. We have noted your concerns. And as I said, we also have your comments in writing. Any questions for Margaret at this time? Okay, I see none. Thank you, Margaret. Please stay with us in case we need to get back to you. Leonard.
Yes, hi.
Hi. So you heard comments and concerns raised by Margaret. How would you like to respond to these?
Yeah, of course. So with regards to the parking, I actually completely agree with Margaret. It's an issue that I'm dealing with one of the tenants right now, and putting the basement walk up there will actually alleviate the issue because that truck won't be able to park there. We've told them numerous times that they're not allowed to park there, and that's why there is no landscaping, because he's driven over it. The parking spot for that truck is in the back. So we're addressing it, and I'm actively trying to address it. But as you can see from that site plan, if you approve the proposal, there just simply won't be the space for that truck to constantly be doing this. With regards to the coach house, it was noted as parking on the previous application. There were a lot of mistakes that were made by my previous architect, which is one of the big reasons why I'm here in front of you guys again today. It was never a parking garage. If you go to page, if you scroll down, there's pictures of what the existing structures look like so scroll up from where you are right now. Yeah, keep on going up. It's a little bit up. Yeah, Keep on going a little bit, and I'd like to note that there's absolutely no heritage designation on this. It's just an old. The whole property is built in 1922. It seems like from tax records. So if you keep on going up, just a little bit more, a little bit more, yeah, a little bit more, a little bit more. That's the existing basement unit. And just one more slide. Yeah, up a little bit. Next page, actually. So this is the coach house. So if you go up a tiny bit more, one more page up. Sorry, it's a long brief. I just want to give all the context. So this is what it used to look like, right there. There's no garage door there, and if you scroll down a tiny bit, and the picture just below that, there actually, as you can see there's no driveway to that accessory structure. So it was never used as a garage. That was some sort of mistake that the previous architect made. Again, there were numerous ones of this, but this has particularly affected me. That coach house had electricity and plumbing in it all the time, so it was never a garage. I don't know why that happened. And to be honest, this was my first project, so I didn't catch it. This is what it looks like now. All we did is we put stucco on the exterior of it, and insulation actually to increase the energy efficiency. We also reduced the size of some of the windows that are facing the south property. There are no windows at all facing the north neighbors or the south or the neighbors behind us, which some of those neighbors are in opposition. And we also added, you can see that there's a fence right there. That fence is actually 40 feet from the back property line. So there's still 40 feet of amenity space behind the garden suite. And we did that because some of the neighbors on Hillside, which is behind the subject property, were concerned about light pollution when cars would be parking. So we added that to protect their backyards. And we had some substantial opposition from as Hillside neighbors initially when it came to committee. And none of those neighbors are here today, which I think is a testament to what I've built and kind of alleviated the concerns that they had, which is that I would convert this into some sort of rooming house, which the next door house is. But none of them are here today, which I think is a testament to the quality of the build that I've done.
Okay. That's great.
And that's pictures of the interior. It's a 1-bedroom suite. We kept all the existing, the original brick on the outside. On the inside, outside we just cladded it because there's too many air leaks. It would be so energy inefficient to keep it existing completely. So we just cladded it with insulation.
Okay, thank you, Leonid. Appreciate your time. Is there anything else, or are you concluding?
Well, I would say just in conclusion, in conclusion, I want to say again that I recognize I made some mistakes with the way that this was handled, and I promise you that this won't happen again. My business model is to create long-term, high-quality rental housing, and from the pictures I shared, I hope that you can see that we've tried to achieve that here. There's no changes to the built form here except for that basement walk-up. So although the path taken was wrong, was made worse by the pandemic and some poor advice that I got. I hope the committee can agree that 2 additional long-term units on Broadview Avenue, which is serviced by 2 24-hour buses, is a welcome addition to the city. And I thank you for your time. And if you have any other questions, I'm happy to deep dive into any of the variances, which we have an extensive explanation on in the brief.
Okay, no, great, thank you. I think your brief was quite substantial in terms of providing us with the information. Members of the committee? Questions for Leonid? I see none. Okay. All right. So, do you want to take the matter into committee, or do you think there will be more questions? Okay. All right. Let's take the matter into committee. We heard Leonid in terms of addressing the concerns raised by Margaret McRae. We have Margaret's comments on file. Any comments at this time? I just want to clarify that the 3 units were permitted or were approved by TLAB, and then this request before us is for the garden suite and the additional secondary unit. So altogether 5 units on the property. I think the brief itself is quite explanatory. It's visual, which is helpful. from my opinion, it's it's quite well kept in terms of the quality is good of these units. So, comments? Oh, Member Said.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, your comments were quite helpful. I'm just again trying to get more clarity as you mentioned that, okay. Initially, there are 3 units. They are already there.
Yes.
And while approving that 3 units, the T-Lab said that, okay, there should be 2 parking spots for the 3 units, right? Now, the applicant is developing 2 more units. And for those 2 units, additional units, there is no parking spots.
Yes.
Am I correct?
Yes, that's
Okay.
correct. So altogether on the property today, and if this gets approved, at the end of the day, there will be 2 parking spaces only. Okay, all right. All right, then, if no further comments or deliberation, are you prepared to put forward a motion? Member Macaulay?
Madam Chair, I'm prepared to recommend approval for this application. It's a complex application, but I know this area and it's a fairly complex area. I think this is appropriate. The variances requested are minor and are in keeping with the desires to improve the area and improve the number of dwelling units, including the garden suite. Therefore, I recommend approval.
Thank you. May I have a seconder, please?
A second, Madam Chair.
Member Taylor seconds the motion. All in favor of this motion? All opposed? Member Said opposes the motion. Motion is carried. The application for 1258 Broadview Avenue has been approved. And there were no conditions, right? We just want to check. Okay, perfect. Okay, all right, thank you very much. We now move to, so item 6 has been dealt with. We now move to item 8. Perfect, thank you. Yeah, so item 8 is 434 Rhodes Avenue. And this is a minor variance application that's before us to permit a new 2-story front addition to an existing bungalow, and the scope of work includes a new covered porch. And we have before us 9 variances. We have Mike D. Oliveira as the agent. Mike, are you there?
Hi, yes, my name is Mike De Oliveira. I'm here representing 434 Rhodes Avenue, and I'm with Replacement Design, located at 911 Davenport Road.
Thank you, Mike. Just stay with us, please. We have Peggy Smart, who has registered to speak in opposition. Peggy, are you with us?
Yes, I am.
Thank you, Peggy. Just stay with us for a few minutes while we get a chance to start the discussion. So, members of the committee, would you like to have a presentation on this application, or do you have any questions for Mike? No questions, no presentation. Okay. Mike, would you like to say anything with regards to your application?
Sure. So the variances we are seeking today are in line with similar approvals the committee has made in the past. Our clients have spoken to many of the neighbors in the neighborhood, collecting 14 letters in support, including that of 436 Rose Avenue. And we've also had extensive discussions with the neighbor at 430, which is Peggy Smart, who is here to discuss in opposition, unfortunately, today. When designing the addition, it was important for our client to leave the existing home untouched as much as possible. If you look at our entire floor plans, very little is changing in the rear that remains. Our client has grown sentimental connection to the main house and wanted to keep it intact, while the addition at the front would give her some much needed bedroom and workspace. Our client is a painter and was looking for a space that she could do her work in. We took into account the natural lighting as much as possible with the glazing throughout, and each item here has a purpose. If you examine Rhodes, you'll see that this is an area where many homes have a varying degree of setbacks, and we have taken this into account when designing ours as well. We worked with the neighbors' enclosed porch and looking at the neighborhood for context. Many neighbors have enclosed front porches that help add to the setbacks and the porch extensions beyond that as well. So there is a varying degree of front yard setbacks, and we tried to take that into account and keep in line with many similar approvals that have been granted in the area. For instance, 452 Rhodes has a setback of 2.4, and 413 Rhodes has a similar setback to what we're asking for, 3.05 meters. The canopy, we have a covered porch that wraps around the building that's going to provide a great opportunity for engagement with the street and the neighborhood. So this provides a lot of outdoor comfort space for our client to enjoy. It gives her a chance to interact with the neighborhood. We've all seen with COVID, it's hard to get that sense of community involvement, but having these kind of spaces allows us to have a presence on the street as well. Although we're asking for 0.66 floor space index, we're actually well below the majority of homes along roads that's been experiencing a lot of growth, with a majority of applications going for approvals between 75 and 90%. So with this, we're well within what's been permitted, and in comparison is quite minor. We believe the rest of the variances to be minor in nature, as the setbacks and eaves are matching the existing home conditions. And I'm open to any questions the committee might have or comments from Peggy's presentation to follow.
Okay, great. Thank you. Members of the committee, questions for Mike? Okay, thank you. There are no questions at this time, so let's move on to speaking with Peggy Smart. Peggy, we have also received your letter in writing. We have it on file, and I've had a chance to review your comments as well. I see you have concerns with the drainage or the sheet flow on the property, and you have some concerns with the closing of the porch and how it affects your property with respect to ventilation, airflow, and whatnot. So is there anything in addition to these comments that you would like to add today?
Well, first of all, I'd like to reiterate the drainage concerns because of the grade difference. And I'd like to stress the fact that I do have on my property an open in-ground window well, which is 2 feet deep and 8 feet long. And with the eaves as close to the property line as proposed, any water spillage is going to be dumping right in there, which is going to have the potential for serious and adverse effects for me. So I think that needs to be addressed. First of all, I am not opposed to this addition.
Yes.
And I don't think if the eaves could be adjusted, either moving the side in a bit or adjusting the eaves, and if that were done and the front was moved back about a foot, that would improve and allow some airflow, because that's the only window on the north side of my home, and it's the major ventilation for the front half. So if those two, I mean, I'm agreeable.
Okay.
It's not the addition. It's just that I think the drainage has to be addressed. It's been a historical problem, and going forward with extending the house out, removing the landscape, the trees, which I mentioned in my letter, I think that's a huge concern for the drainage.
Okay. All right. So one thing I can assure you, Margaret, Peggy, is that the drainage issues are not under the jurisdiction of this committee. However, I see how it could be connected with or interrelated with the roof eaves that are proposed, and there's a couple of minor variances for that for the roof eave. So we can certainly talk to Mike and get some clarification. But what I can tell you is that the drainage issues are looked at through the building permit stage. So when Mike will apply for his building permits, he will have to demonstrate that any drainage as a result of this development will be self-contained or would be addressed through his property and will not drain off to the adjacent property. So I can let you know that that's the process with respect to drainage on adjacent properties. But you definitely have a point. We can certainly talk to Mike about the roof eaves and the proximity of the roof eaves to the lot line.
And I've also mentioned to Mike when we talked about, which I didn't think was a huge adjustment, was if the house moved back a foot from the proposed, that would enable me to have some airflow through that window. I don't think the two things I'm requesting would make a major impact on the space that is being gained and the enhancement of this addition.
Okay. All right. Okay. So we'll speak with Mike and see if there's an opportunity to address those concerns and see if there's any changes that are possible. Members of the committee, any questions for Peggy before she leaves? Okay, I see none at this time. Thank you, Peggy. Stay with us, and we'll circle back with you. Mike.
Hi. Yes.
Hi. So you heard Peggy's concerns. Please respond.
Yeah, so we appreciate the concerns laid out by the neighbor. And although we understand the water runoff is a major concern, I believe that, as the committee has mentioned, this is something that will be addressed by the building department and their inspectors on site. And in the future, if there is any problems that occur that is not addressed by the owners, they can bring that to the attention of bylaw enforcement that would help rectify the situation. And in terms of the existing, in terms of the setback of the eaves, we're actually keeping with the existing setback. We haven't changed anything from the existing home. We're simply carrying the same condition forward. So we're not making things necessarily worse. We're just continuing the same case here. And as for the ventilation, the home has windows to the front and rear. There's plenty of chances for ventilation to occur within her home. The addition is not going to impede her use of that side window. Our front porch is not enclosed. It's open to the elements. So there's still a chance for ventilation to happen there. I don't believe that the addition is really going to impede on that. I know she mentioned possibly setting building back a foot or so, but there's no guarantee that's exactly going to be enough for the location of her window. So I think it's a little hard to agree to a foot or two of a setback without knowing for sure that that would solve the situation. As I said, there's plenty of other windows that you could use for ventilation. It doesn't necessarily mean they would have to impede our client's addition.
Okay, Mike, can I have your thoughts on what's the surface, what does it look like in that setback on the, between 430 and your property? Is it paved or is it grassed?
A portion of, at the existing, I believe there is some pavement. From there onwards, it's grass right now. It's most likely going to stay with some sort of permeable paving in between.
Yes, that's what I'm sort of bouncing some ideas here. So maybe you could do some permeable paving or sod that area to allow for more pervious surface there to help with the drainage because of the proximity of the eaves to the property line.
Yeah, we're certainly opening to address the water issues. As I mentioned, it's going to be an issue with the building department as well. So we'll have to maintain all runoff within our property. So it's certainly something that will be addressed.
Yeah, okay. So committee, maybe that's something we can think about when we are preparing for the decision. Okay. Anything else that you would like to say before we take this into committee?
I believe that's it, unless there's any further questions from committee at this moment.
Members, any questions for Mike? Okay. I see none. Thank you, Mike. Committee members, we'll take the matter into committee now. We will deliberate. If any comments, please advise. As I was thinking, maybe consider some permeable paving or soft landscaping that area to help with the sheet runoff. But again, it's in your hands. If there are no comments, are we prepared to put forward a motion on this one? Member Said.
Madam Chair, I believe the variances mentioned there are minor and they meet the test criteria. So I am willing to move the motion for approval of this application, and there are no conditions attached to that.
Okay, may I have a seconder? Member Macaulay?
I will second that motion.
All right, all in favor of this motion? Motion carries. The application has been approved. And
Thank you very much.
there are no conditions, right? Okay, we now move to item number 10. Item number 10 is for, and now we're getting into the Scarborough items. Item 10 is for 178A and 178B South Woodrow Boulevard. And there are two applications for each of these lots. The purpose of the application is to construct a two-story detached dwelling on each of the lots. And the property is comprised of two whole lots. On a plan of subdivision, doesn't require a consent application. We have before us 8 variances for each of the two proposed dwelling units on each of the lots. Okay, we have Peter Jerusik. Peter, are you with us?
I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Thank you. Please stay with us. I'll do a roll call. Carmen Ho.
Yep, I'm here.
Thank you, Carmen. Anita Mack.
Through the chair, Anita was checked in this morning but is no longer there.
Okay. So Anita, if you're listening in and if you would like to speak, please do sign back in to speak. We're a few minutes away from getting to speaking with the members here. So please try to connect if you wish to. Elizabeth Payne.
Through the chair, Elizabeth has not checked in today.
Okay, Elizabeth, you haven't checked in today. If you are listening to us and if you wish to sign in, please do so. You have a few minutes from now. So, members of the committee, is there any question for Peter or would you like to have a presentation from Peter? Or any specific concern or question? Okay, I see none. Peter?
Yes.
All right. So committee members don't have any specific question. Would you like to say anything before I advance to speaking with the residents?
Just a short comments here. This property, as you can see by the map put on the drawing here, these are lots of record that have been created as part of the subdivision. And this area does permit semi-detached on 7.5 meter lots. So I know the first two variances will just bring the lots into compliance with the dwelling unit. In addition, the most of the variances I believe are minor in nature and fit the 4 tests. And if we can have the site plan up, the site plan, I don't know if it's Katrine or Brian controlling there. When we look at the lots adjacent to it, currently the lot to the left of the property on lot 233 of the registered plan, it is an older house built maybe in the 1980s, 1990s, which is longer. It's a 2-story dwelling and on a similar size lot. So we try to keep within, in terms of the depth of the houses between what we have on the north side and what we have on the south side to keep kind of a transitional spot there. So I believe in terms of the character of the community, just driving up and down the street, this is a very diverse neighborhood with houses built in the late 1990s, 2000s, some older World War II bungalows, and currently some new development starting as well, which are tear downs of older bungalows and being redeveloped. So this is an area that is in transition right now. We have anything from reverse driveways, 3 stories, to houses that have currently 3-story houses with garage, ground floor, second, built in the 1950s and 60s down the road. So I believe that this does fit the 4 tests, and in terms of the character of the community, it's been an area in transition. And as a dynamic community, I believe this is a well-suited development for the proposed lots.
Okay, thank you. Members, any question for Peter? Any clarification? Okay, I see none. So thank you, Peter, for your comments. We will now move to speaking with Carmen. Carmen, are you there?
Yes.
Hi. So Carmen, please proceed and let us know what your concerns are with the application.
Yeah, I'm not in opposition, but mostly want to ask for a few clarifying questions. So I am at the direct neighbor at 176 South Woodrow. So my question is currently, my property is currently further away from the property line. So my concern is the proposed property that's going to be built be too close to my property? And can you confirm the distance from the proposed property from the property line? And my second question is, does the property owner have insurance that covers the neighboring properties if any accidents happen? Third question is, how do the windows in the proposed property align with my property's windows? My concern is that it looks to be directly or just a little bit off to the windows, and because of the distance from the property line, my concern it might reduce the privacy. And lastly, how does the height of the property measure against my current property, and how much taller is it?
Perfect. I think that was very well done. So if I captured, you're looking for confirmation on setback between your property and the proposed development, insurance question, window distance from a privacy perspective, and height of the property as compared to your house, correct?
Yeah, perfect.
Perfect. All right, thank you. Is there anything else before we move on?
No, that's it.
Okay, thank you very much. Carmen, members, any questions for Carmen? I see none. Thank you, Carmen. Please stay with us. Peter, can we have you back?
Okay, I'm back.
Okay, perfect.
In terms of the setbacks, we are at 0.82 meter setback on that property line with 176. So that's almost 3 feet. So it's like 2.5 foot setback. Zoning does permit 0.45 for detached dwellings in this area. So we're within the required. We're well within it, and actually exceeded what the requirement is. So bylaw permits 0.45, and we've pushed it back to 0.82. In terms of the windows, where it says second floor, and there's 2 dots there in the middle, that's where we're pushing the windows in, and they will be 1.2 meters or 4 feet from our property line. So from the neighboring house at 176, the distance would be approximately 8 feet from our windows to their sidewall. For that.
So you've kind of indented it on the second floor.
Right, because building code only permits windows if you're within 4 feet, unless you do fire-rated windows or protected windows.
I see.
So we indented the second floor to permit those 2 windows, and those are for 2 bedrooms upstairs.
I see.
And
Okay.
that's all the windows that are on the side elevation are only those 2 windows for the upper bedrooms.
Okay.
In terms of the insurance, I can't speak to that, but I know the owner will probably carry construction insurance, which does deal with fire, theft, loss, and all that. And I do know it does have a liability. Most construction insurance does have liability, but I can't really speak to the details of his policy because he probably hasn't been purchased it yet.
Okay.
So this would be under a construction insurance at the beginning, but I know this is nothing that the committee has to deal with in itself. In terms of the height, we are requesting for an 8.5 meter wall height. Looking at it towards the existing house, when we looked at the proposed area, the neighboring houses, especially the one at 176, it was pretty much at 9 meters as per building code. So this one, we are a bit lower than their roof line. So their roof would be higher than our property, than our house. Okay, because
Okay, so the total height of your house, not the exterior side main walls, but total height is how much as measured?
8.5 to the top of the parapet of that front tower, of that front elevation. But the majority of the house is at 8.29, which is that parapet for the surrounding, for the rest of the remaining house.
Oh, and because it's a flat roof. And you mentioned 176 would be like a typical 2-story, 9 meters?
2-story raised up out of the house, 9 meters. Yes.
To,
When I
to the
looked
top
at
of the roof?
I'm estimating, but
Okay.
looking at how many steps they have to the front door, how much room above the garage, and how high and the pitch of the roof, it's very typical for that neighborhood. It might be at 8.9 or 8.5 as well. So it's hard to gauge at that point in terms of without having a surveyor measure it, but it is comparable. We that house would have been built in the 1990s, 2000 at the same bylaw of 9 meters, and that requirement for 9 meters maximum height has not changed in Scarborough in terms of developments. And our house is at 1.5 just at the garage doors, and then the majority of the house will be at 8.2 meters.
Okay, thank you, Peter. Committee members, I typically don't do this. I don't go back to the resident, but in this case, I would like to, if you allow me, just to confirm that she has answers to all the questions that she had asked. Okay, so if I can have Carmen back. Carmen, you had raised those 4 questions, and those have been answered by Mr. Jurusik. Are you satisfied?
Yeah, they're very informative. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time. All right, let's come back. I'm going to check again. Has Anita been able to connect?
Through the chair, neither Anita or Elizabeth have connected again this afternoon.
Okay, thank you, Carrie. So Anita and Elizabeth, my apologies, but we have to move on and we have to make a decision on this application today. So, committee members, any questions for Peter? Any concerns? Any clarification? Okay, I see none. Are you prepared to take the matter into committee? Okay, we will now take the matter into committee. Any comments at this time for committee? Okay, I see none. Well, if there are no comments or thoughts, is anyone going to put forward a motion? Member McKay.
Oh, Madam Chair, I'll move approval of this application, subject to the urban forestry condition. I think that the 4 tests are adequately met here.
Okay, and Member McKay, if I can just say, there were 2 applications, right? So 1 for each lots, yeah. Okay, so your motion encompasses both the applications?
It does, 178A and 178B.
Okay, and you mentioned that there are comments or conditions from urban forestry? And Peter, you're aware of those conditions and you have no concerns?
I have no concerns.
Okay, thank you. All right, so we have a motion on the floor to recommending approval of these 2 applications, subject to conditions of urban forestry. May I have a seconder, please?
I'll second the motion, Madam Chair.
Member Taylor seconds the motion. All in favor of this motion? All right, all opposed? Member Said opposes the motion. The motion is carried. The application for 178, 17A and 178B South Woodrow Boulevard has been approved, subject to conditions of urban forestry.
Thank you.
Thank you. We now move to item number 13. Item number 13 is for 142 Audrey Avenue. And we have before us, in terms of registration, the agent, Marilyn Yeeps.
Yes, hello, Madam Chairman and Committee.
Hi, Marilyn. Just stay with us, please, for a moment. Trevor Harris, who had registered to speak in opposition.
Yes, I am here. Thank you.
Thank you, Trevor. And Jennifer Beswick.
Yes, I am here. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Please stay with us. Committee members, this is an application, 142 Audrey Avenue, to construct a new 2-story detached dwelling. It was deferred at the November 24th meeting so that the applicant could revise to address concerns from transportation services. The parking-related variances are no longer required, but what we have before us are 7 variances. Any question for Marilyn at this time? Any comment, any question, any concern, any clarification? Okay, I see none. Marilyn, before we proceed to speaking with the neighbors, would you like to say anything?
Yes, I would.
Please.
Thank you. The existing lot is a trapezoid, and so the east and west lot property lines are angled, which results in the setbacks also being angled, and that results in an awkward building area. There's an existing house on the property which is in poor condition and pretty much more appropriately to be torn down, which is why we're asking for permission to build a new house. And we're asking mainly for permission for relief of setbacks and coverage. The setbacks front and rear are as a result of the angled property lines. That one side is much shorter than the other side because of the angles, and because of our proposed building is more like 90-degree parallel to the side yards. So we're asking for relief of the setbacks and coverage. We think that it probably, compared to the existing house, creates a better streetscape because we're setting the house farther back into the property than it is now. It's right at the front, and we are creating a parking space that is legal entirely on our property, whereas before it was mostly on city property. So we feel that the requests are minor in nature, and that our proposal is in keeping with the character of the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Marilyn. Any question for Marilyn? Okay, I see none. Thank you, Marilyn, for your time. We will now move to Trevor Harris. Trevor?
Thank you. So I live right beside this property. I've lived there for 5 years, and I don't have, they changed some things with the last plan revision. They moved the north side yard setback to 3 feet, which I am fine with. But the one issue that I have is where the parking space is located on the north side of the property now, because it basically, because our lot on 144 is irregular as well, it's very narrow in the front. And if their parking space is basically, on that property line, I see it as a bit of a danger for if I have a guest walking on our lane up to the house. So I guess my question is, does the property line from the stake, does it go perpendicular to the road?
Yes.
Because if that's the case, because if that's the case, then their parking would be, on an angle, and then it would have to go straight. That's sort of that's what I'm wondering.
Okay, can we have the site plan up, Katrine, if you don't mind? So while Katrine is bringing up the site plan to help you understand how the parking space aligns, I just want to tell you, kind of just advise you or bring to your attention that we do not have any variance before us that is for proximity of that parking space to your property or the property line on the north side. So as far as we're concerned, there was the last hearing, there was a variance for parking within the public boulevard. Since then, the application has been revised, and the parking space is entirely on the private property now. In terms of the proximity to your house, I know it's an angle, it's kind of weird, but there's no variance that require, for the location of this parking space anymore.
Of course, no, I do understand that. It's more so the way that would, as you see the parking space there, would that continue all the way to the sidewalk on that same plane?
No, it only goes to the extent of the front wall of the main building, right? Yeah, so it's aligned with...
to the road. Does that parking space continue on that angle to the road, or does it turn on a 35-degree angle and go straight to the road?
Katrine, can you zoom in? It is the way it's presented on the plan. So the dashed line that you see is the extent of the parking space. So I don't know if that helps. So
Madam Chair, I think what he's looking for is how do you get from the road to that parking space?
Yes. Thank you.
Like you would for any driveway.
Well, his question is, and that if that parking space goes directly out, it cuts in front of his property. If it's on an angle, then it doesn't.
Okay, Colin, can you help us understand?
Through the chair, if you extend that line all the way out, I guess it would make sense to me that it would be perpendicular to the sidewalk, so it would go on an angle, right? Or otherwise, you'd be like it would be
sticking out.
Yes.
it would be sticking out.
Yeah.
So that's
Yes. Okay.
yeah.
Thank you. That is my main concern, just because the laneway off of the sidewalk, our path, like I've done the math and measured it out, and if it went straight, it would basically intersect with our path to our house, which I think is a hazard.
I see. Okay. All right.
So I just wanted clarification. Everything else I'm fine with. It would be nice to have a new house there, because I've been living beside the house there for a while and it's not in good shape.
Okay. All right. No, that's great. Thank you for flagging that, and we will seek that clarification from Marilyn in a bit. Okay. Anything else before we leave?
It might not be a question or a comment for you. It might be something I have to talk with the owners about, who I do know the owners as well. Is just that the property lines are honored as they are, because we do have a very narrow space between our house and their house. And if the house is to get any closer, we'd be getting squeezed at the front.
Okay. Okay. So that's something that you will have to discuss with the owner. But what I can tell you is that a building permit will be issued for development on the private property only, the way it's presented here. Colin?
Of course.
Through the chair, there's also a staff report from QDD Planning, which is recommending tying the variance applications to the plans that are submitted today.
Yeah, that's a great comment. So if you heard, Trevor, that we do have a staff report from community planning that, should the committee approve the variances today, that we tie the approvals to the site plan so that it's built substantially in accordance with the approved site plan. Okay?
Perfect. Thank you.
All right, so we'll get to it. Member Macaulay? Can you have your mic on?
Sorry. This is a question to staff now that we're looking at that parking site. I don't see any variances required for it.
No, there isn't any.
You're absolutely correct. That's correct. There is no part, and that's the reason why it was the application was deferred, was for the applicant to try to address the issues of transportation services to ensure that the parking space is entirely within the private property.
So that parking space meets the zoning. Okay. All right. So let's move on. Can we have Jennifer with us?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you. So along with Trevor's concerns, I guess our first and largest concern is that there are 7 variances listed to us. As Trevor's mentioned, this is already a very tight space, and as of the owners of the property have mentioned, it is a tight space. To ask for these 7 variances that basically encroach in all directions, front, back, sides, except for height, is asking a lot for the property. As it's been mentioned, the property is not of straight angles. It is sort of a triangle. And on that topic, that's not news to the owners. The owners of the property actually did put this house, which is in very poor shape, up for sale, and then opted to keep the land to build on it themselves. So to kind of use that as a reason to need to go against all the bylaws doesn't really hold a lot of ground in our view. They're well aware of the shape of that property for many years that they've owned the land themselves. And I have to question, Marilyn made a comment saying that the existing house already sits more forward to the road than the one they wish to build. So I guess I need some clarification on that. And also with the clarification, it says that the setback required is 6 meters and they're asking for 3.39, I think. Yes.
That's only for the corner.
As you mentioned, the house property runs on an angle to the street. So is that 3.39 from the shortest distance from the street?
Yes. It's the
or the
shortest
farthest
distance.
distance?
Yeah, so I don't know if you can see the screen, but Katrine will point out to you that for the front yard setback, the requested variance is for 3.39, and it's for the narrowest point along that frontage.
Right.
For the rest,
Okay.
it is the way you see it. And the same goes for the rear yard setback. It's for the narrowest portion at 4.03. Yes, right there, 4.037.
Okay, so
Yeah.
I don't know if Marilyn could help me then to be able to visualize. It was stated that the current home actually sits more forward than the proposed home. So are we stating then that the current home is breaking the current bylaws as it sits now, even more
Yeah.
so than what they're requesting as a variance?
Okay, we will get that confirmation from Marilyn, but I hope your question has been answered with respect to the setbacks from the front and the back.
Yes,
Okay.
but our like I mentioned, our first and foremost concern is the encroachment on the front yard setback. This house is the first house on the street, and if this home that is going to be proposed to be built is going to sit more forward, it is going to block out the next few homes, including Trevor's. And people have bought on this street for the southern view, the view of the Hunt Club, the view of the lake. Even the new condo that was built at the end of the street has not encroached on that. And I wouldn't expect that a single dwelling home that's been owned by the same owners for many years should be able to encroach on that.
Okay, so if you can look at the plan that's being shown on the screen,
Mm-hmm.
and you can see the location of the existing house in that dashed line. So right now it's at 1.03 setback from the front lot line.
Okay.
So it's actually
And so the new one would be 3.39
for that corner, but it does widen up as it goes north.
goes
Okay.
farther, right?
Yeah.
So there will be more frontage
Yes.
now than there, or in the future than there is now.
That's correct.
Okay, so that actually is a good note. So I guess our other main concern is just that, we look at this as, bylaws are here for a reason.
Yeah.
And most of the homes and other properties on the street had to follow the bylaws when they did build or do renovations.
Yes.
And I mean, if not for any disrespect, but if these bylaws can constantly just be brought up on variances, really, what is the point of the bylaws existing in the first place? We want to make sure that our streetscapes remain the same. That's why the bylaws were brought in place.
Okay, so if I can help you here.
Yeah,
if I can help you here, Jennifer, I hear you loud and clear. So if you can just stay with me for a couple of minutes. So the first bylaw is an existing situation, right? So the first variance, which is asking for a reduction in the lot frontage, which is an existing situation. So out of the 7, that's an existing situation that's being recognized. Number 2, yes, I agree, that's an increase or asking for increase in the lot coverage. The third is associated with the second one. The fourth one, as we just discussed, that reduction in the front yard setback is only for a portion of that front yard setback. The remainder is definitely more than 3.39 and more than 6 at one instance, right?
Yes,
so that's a resultant of the size or the shape of the property. As you know, it's a trapezoid. The fifth one, yes, I agree with you. That's being requested. The sixth one, again, that is a result of the size or the shape, not the size, the shape of the lot, and it's only being requested for that reduction for only a portion, right? So, and the last one, yes, I agree, that's something that's being requested. So if you look at the totality, out of the 7, I would say 3 are a result of the way the existing lot shape or the size is. Yes, we can certainly talk about the 4 proposed variances. So that's how we, even as a committee, look at the applications in terms of what's existing, what could be dealt with, and what's, what's being requested. So I just wanted to flag that to you to help you understand. Okay.
No, I completely understand. Yes, but hence why my initial comment is the shape and the limitations of this lot are not a surprise to these owners. They didn't purchase and then think, oh gosh, how do we build on a property of this shape? They've owned this property for many years, and actually did put the property up for sale and took it off the market.
Yeah.
So I have a problem with agreeing to these variances based on shock of the shape of the property. There's a current home on the property. Yes, it isn't livable, but it does fit within the standards of the bylaws, and so a home could be built within the standards.
Okay.
That's
Yeah,
what I
but
have to say.
but if they were to comply, and again, I'm not speaking on behalf of the applicant, but my observation is that if they were to build in accordance with the zoning bylaw, they'd probably end up with a small square like that that's currently on the property. So again, I'm not speaking on behalf. That's just my observation and my comment. But your points are very very well noted and will be considered. Thank you. Okay. Any questions for Jennifer? Okay, I see none. Thank you, Trevor and Jennifer. We are going to go back to Marilyn. Marilyn?
Hello.
Hi.
Just to point out that the existing house contravenes several setback requirements as it stands right now. And it is also over the allowable coverage on the property. If you look at the plan I have that I submitted with drawing number 1, it was, if you take into account all this front yard, rear yard, and side yard setbacks required on the property, we can build a house of 39.13 square meters, which is 421 square feet. So that's a much smaller area than the existing house is right now. So while we are asking for an increase in the area, it's the increase in the area from what's allowable, which is less than what's existing, to what we are asking for is an increase of 6.42% of coverage. So the allowable would be 22.55% of the property, not because it's up to maximum coverage, but because it respects all the required setbacks. And again, that's because of the trapezoidal shape. The property has been in the family for many years, and the current owner's mother lived there. The current owner is proposing to redevelop the property, which she didn't buy because it was a weird shape. It just was in the family as a property like that, and so the family wants to redevelop the property. That's the reason why we're coming to Committee of Adjustment with permission to build a new house.
Okay. How big is the house, Marilyn? What's the square footage
Pardon?
of the house? What's the square footage of the house that's being proposed?
The square footage of the proposed house is 64.71 square meters.
That's quite modest. 64.17 square meters?
Right. It's a 2-bedroom house, 2-story, 2 bedrooms upstairs, 1 master and 1 smaller den/bedroom, and then
No.
floor is
You what you mentioned to me was the ground floor area. I was asking the gross floor area, and on your plan,
the gross floor.
yeah, the gross
Okay,
floor is 129. Okay.
Yes, sorry, I thought you meant the ground floor.
That's
Sorry.
okay. That's fine, no problem. So we're looking at 130 square meters, which is approximately 1,500 square feet, 1,600?
1,400 square feet.
Yeah, 1,500, which is in today's day and age is very modest based on what we've seen coming up. So, okay, please carry on, Marilyn.
I think I answered the questions. Was there anything outstanding that I left unanswered?
No, I think Trevor next door wanted confirmation on the parking space and that it would be contained wholly on the private property and that it wasn't at an angle. So can you provide some clarification on that?
Yes, it's the actual parking space is entirely on the property, and we would bend, once we get off of our property towards the sidewalk and the street, we would bend it at 90 degrees to the sidewalk and street.
Okay.
Perfect.
That's so, and that would be the driveway or the paved portion within the municipal boulevard, and that would be at an angle so that it is perpendicular to the existing sidewalk. Okay.
Correct.
Okay, sounds good. Anything else for Marilyn? Okay, I see none. Thank you, Marilyn, for your time. And are you aware of the staff report and the recommendation staff report?
Yes, I am.
And you have no concern with the recommendation as presented?
No, we don't have any concerns.
Okay, thank you. Members of the committee, if there are no questions for Marilyn, I'd like to take the matter into committee. Any comment? Member Macaulay.
Yes, again, a comment to staff. The community planning has said they shall build in accordance with the proposed site plan drawing that's been prepared. And the issue that has been raised is the access to the public road. Is there, if we required that the access to the parking space be perpendicular to the public road, would that cause a problem?
Through the chair, I don't think it's necessary because the boulevard parking would be covered through a separate process, through transportation services.
And transportation services would not say you can't do that?
Yeah.
So transportation services would require that the parking be the boulevard be the access and the curb cuts would be at perpendicular to the sidewalk.
They can't just flare it out like that, right?
No.
It'll have to be perpendicular coming
So
in.
there is a separate process in place.
Yeah, that's all I want to make sure is that there is some concern about how that driveway intersects with the road. And we're not adding that condition to this, and we don't have a transportation comment.
Yep.
So I didn't want it to be that transportation at a later date says they can't do that.
Through the chair, transportation, this was reviewed by Transportation Services. This is one of the reasons why it was deferred originally.
Yeah.
They're okay with it.
Okay.
Okay, thank you for that clarification, Member Macaulay and Colin. Any further comments? Okay, I see none. All right, members, may I please have a motion? Member Macaulay.
I'm prepared to recommend approval of this application. I note that it's in that community planning have a condition, and I'm going to read it. The owner shall build substantially in accordance with the proposed site plan drawing number 2, prepared by Marilyn Yeats, architect, dated November 19, 2020, as detailed on Figure 1, attached to from the Director of Community Planning, Scarborough District, dated December 5th, 2020. And it's the second sentence that's causing me some issues. Any other zoning nonconformities that may appear on these plans but are not listed in the written decision are not authorized. I think that's just insurance, but I wanted to read it out so that the applicant is aware of that statement.
Okay.
Oh, and thank you. Subject to conditions of urban forestry.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor recommending approval, subject to condition of community planning staff report as laid out in their December 5th report, as well as urban forestry. May I have a seconder, please? Member Said.
Madam Chair, I second the motion with the condition as mentioned by Member Macaulay and other urban forestry conditions as well.
Okay, all in favor of this motion? The motion is carried. The application has been approved, subject to the conditions as stated. Thank you for your time, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. We dealt with item 14. We are now going to move to item 15. Item 15 is 12 Port Royal Trail. And this is an application to permit the construction of a new 2-story detached dwelling with an integral garage. And we have before us 3 variances. And we had held it down because there was an opposition member, H.W. Lee. So before we proceed, Nicole, are you with us?
Yes, I am.
Thank you, Nicole. Members of the committee. Oh, before I do that, sorry. Roll call for H.W. Lee. Are you with us, H.W. Lee?
I'm here.
Okay, thank you. Please stay with us for a moment. Members of the committee, any question for Nicole? Okay, I see none. Nicole, before we move to speaking with H.W. Lee, do you have any comment that you would like to make at this time?
I do, just really short. I wanted to, I noticed that in both of the letters, and my client did speak with Mr. Lee personally twice, but I just wanted to note that in both of the letters, both the neighbors were afraid, and I can understand where they're coming from, about this currently being a rental property and some misuse of parking and things of that nature. I wanted them to really rest assured that Mr. and Mrs. Fernandez, my clients, are using this property as their primary home with their kids, and that's where they want to move and live in, and it will not be a rental property. And then I also wanted to note that we actually had a previous Committee of Adjustment meeting date, but because of some communication with transportation, we decided to wait, work things out with transportation, make sure that everything makes sense, and then we took I guess a deferral or whatever you want to call it to today's date. So we've been more than happy to work with the city, with neighbors, and we really hope that you guys will consider that. Thank you.
Thank you, Nicole. That is very refreshing to hear that everything worked out and resolved, but we will certainly hear from Mr. Lee as well. We do have his detailed letter of objection on file as well. So any questions for Nicole at this time? See none. Okay, thank you, Nicole. Please stay with us. Mr. Lee.
Yes.
Hi, Mr. Lee. Could you please let us know of your concerns that you have with the proposed development?
Yes, thank you. Nicole just mentioned that Mr. Fernandez come and talk to us. In fact, I want to say that like the first time we know about this project is when we received the letter from this committee regarding about the variance on December the 2nd. And nobody ever come to any one of us in here regarding about this project. And one thing is that like with the variance in here, before I go to that in here, and I do appreciate Mr. Fernandez come over here and show us that he's going to believe in this house. So the concern about the tenant thing is gone, I suppose. But the main thing right now is the size of this home. One thing I would like to bring to your attention is the variance number 1, about 0.06 or 287.87 square meter from the letter. And I talked to Miss Adrian Darling, and she informed me that that's the right square meters in here. But
Correct.
from all the engineering drawings, all I can see is 323 meter squares in here. So there's a difference in quite a large amount in here, though. So I don't know if that's correct to begin with. So can I get the response in it before I show my other concerns?
Sure. What I can tell you, Mr. Lee, is that what we approve, let's say if the committee approves the variance today, we haven't approved it yet, but should the committee approve it, the committee will approve the number that is on the variance, not what is on the drawing. So once the committee approves the number, which I believe is 287.87, the applicant will have to prepare the drawings that would demonstrate that it is 287.87, and a building permit will not be issued for a building larger than 287.87.
Okay, because there's a drawing is 322.12, and with the last minute adjustment of the indoor garage from single to double, I see another little update in there, one of the little boxes in here say 308.85. So there are quite a few number different, but
I totally see your point, and I agree with you because the site plan, and I'm looking at the statistics here, it does show a total. Again, this is floors. You're right. It shows 308.85, and I think I would have the same concern as you would. But based on the public notice, it is 287.
Right, because
Yeah.
because other neighbor might totally object if you build to the like 323, right? or 308, right? So it's totally different in
Yeah.
here that we are dealing with.
Totally agree with you, and that's a fair comment and a legitimate concern. As far as we're concerned, if the committee approves it today, we will be approving it at 287.87, because we don't approve the plans, we only approve the number here, okay? And then, yeah, and when this person will go and obtain his building permit, he will have to make sure that it is 287. But you know what, Mr. Lee, we will get that clarification from Nicole as well, okay?
Thank you, because to start with, can I proceed with my concern about this house now, or will you get back to me?
Okay. Okay, fair enough. No, that's been noted. Please move on to your other concern.
Okay, but I would like to bring to the attention that this house, by the time it's finished, I'll go by the drawing, right? In here, the house is about 62 feet long, 40 feet wide, and 30 feet high. And I would have to say that like this will be the biggest house in the whole neighborhood of Milliken in here. And it's humongous, or maybe you can call it a monster home.
Okay, so if I can just jump in for a second here, Mr. Lee, there's no variance that is requested for the height. So so they are meeting or they are complying with the height requirement under the zoning bylaw.
Right, I just bring to the attention that like the height of the building compared to the rest of the houses in here will be taller, which is a fact, right? Though it's not breaking the variance in here.
Yeah.
But what I mean is like from my side of the house, I'm in number 14. So basically, I'm looking at a wall that's 62 feet long and 30 feet high, because the house is being designed with a flat roof, or what they call a French roof. So there's no pitch in here, like most of the houses in here are the gable roof in here. So we are losing a lot of space for visibility and for sunlight.
Okay, but I can't help you with that, Mr. Lee, because the height is not before us. And okay, okay.
The reason I bring this along is like the house is going to sit further towards the curb in here.
Okay.
Because they are taking 5.6 feet of the driveway to build the house.
Okay. Mr. Leaf, I'm just gonna confirm with you. We're not talking about matters that are outside of this application. We talked about variance number 1. You raised very good concerns about the discrepancy in the numbers. We will talk. The height is not before us, so we will not talk about that. You talked about the length of the building, and we will get that clarification from the applicant. We basically allow 5 minutes for the residents to speak. You have passed that 5 minutes. So would you like to conclude your comments at this time?
Yes, I would like to say that like I have no objection for them building a house in here, but the thing is that the house is twice as big as all the houses in here. In fact, it is 2.6 times of the original one in here. And And this is like bigger than both the houses that Mr. Fernandez owned in here, number 105 and 107, which is over 1,300 square feet and 1,200 square feet in here. So we are building a property so big that is incomparable with any of the houses in here in this neighborhood.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Mr. Lee. We've heard your comments. We've noted them down. I will now request Nicole Parr to come back and respond to Mr. Lee's comments.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Lee, for your comments. I think that it's important to note that my clients are husband and wife with 2 kids, and the husband's parents are going to be living with them as well, hence why they need to have, a couple extra bedrooms for that. I also wanted to, Katrine, is it okay if you put on my AO1 drawing? or if I can share my screen, or just I wanted to talk about the variance, the 19 meters that we're requesting. Thank you very much. That's exactly the one I'm looking for. So actually, the building itself is 16.71 meters. It's the breakfast bump out and the bump out for the master bathroom upstairs that actually comes out at 2.29. We would be more than willing and happy to have our committee of adjustment decision have a based on this, and you can make it a condition. Because we're not trying to exceed more than 17 meters for the major portion of the building, just to have a little bump out for breakfast and to have a sort of beautiful master bathroom upstairs. And
So
then,
Nicole,
I'm very sympathetic.
Nicole, I just want to make sure.
Sorry.
So the jet out there is for the breakfast area and the room, and that's only extending 2.29, but the majority of the building is 16.71.
That's absolutely correct. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
And
Fair enough.
actually, it's actually interesting, but the first floor does actually comply with the 17 meters. It's the second floor that doesn't. But when we put it on the site plan, and when of course we're going to do variances, we have to put it drawn in like this.
I
Because
see.
the second floor has a little bump out on the second floor, so hence it extends beyond the 16.71 meters.
But what about your breakfast area? That's also part of
It
that.
doesn't actually, no. That breakfast area is okay because it's measured from, if you see, it kind of bumps out a little bit in the front.
Mhm.
That actually is 17 meters. But when you go to the second floor, there's a bump out there on the front of the building, and that's the portion that measures more than 16.71 meters. So as I said, we'd be more than happy if you wanted to make our AO1 a condition of our approval. And I think that maybe would make it more understanding to some of our neighbors to note that we're not trying to ask for some, major 2-meter difference in the whole area and their sun is going to be blocked out and things. It's not.
Okay. All right. Could you tell us, Nicole, why is there a discrepancy in the number of the GFA as listed on the site plan versus what's on the variance request?
Yeah, I think that when we did the with transportation, when we were working with them, I think one of our drawings probably got mixed up. But I understand the number that's on there, and I also know that the committee of adjustment, works with numbers. So it's 287.87 meters square, and that's what we're going to stick with.
Okay, because that 323 or 308 is consistently shown on other plans as well. So as long as we're clear that the variance before us is for 287, or whatever that number is, that would be the number to go with.
Yeah. Yes. So we had it checked by a zoning examiner. We always do.
Okay, all right. Thank you. Anything else, committee? Okay, I see no questions, and thank you for your time, Nicole. Just bear with us. Members of the committee, if no further questions for Nicole, are we prepared to take the matter into committee? Okay, I see some nods. All right, we take the matter into committee. No further questions to the applicant. So you have before us the application. They're requesting 3 variances. One related to the FSI of 10 square meters of a difference or increase. 2 meters of additional length of the house only for that portion that is more for aesthetics or for a little portion. So, and a recommendation was made by the applicant that it could be tied to the decision if the committee approves it. And then the third is related to the parking or location of parking space, which I believe there's no concerns from transportation or planning. Member Macaulay.
Okay, Madam Chair. I understand that the applicant's willing to have this drawing, A2, I believe it is, attached to the A01 attached
A01.
to the decision.
All of them?
I think that would be an error. I think what it would do is it would cause confusion as to what was approved because this drawing shows the wrong total gross floor area.
A01?
Yep.
Where does it show?
Two-story dwelling, first level, basement level, you add those numbers up and they don't add up.
Okay, and that's fine. I'll tell you why, Member Macaulay, is because we're not. What you can say is for the purposes of the building length, you could use that language there, right? But the variance itself, should it be granted, would only be for 287.
Yes, I understand. I think someone can come back at a later date and say it was approved in relation to this drawing, and I'd prefer not to have that drawing referred to because it's got incorrect information that would be misleading. Others may decide to add that, but I'm not going to recommend it.
Okay, all right. So there's a comment made that Member Macaulay feels it would be inadequate to attach this drawing. That's Member Macaulay's opinion. Colin.
Through the chair, if for certainty, and again, just to clarify that the when decisions are being tied to plans, they're not being tied to the numbers. They're not being tied because the numbers are actually in the earlier part of the variance where it specifically lists the approved GFA. For some greater degree of certainty, the committee may wish to tie it as it pertains to the building length.
Yeah,
you can tie it to A01, A02, and A03
For building length
if you wish.
Yeah. And that's what I'd suggested, that we could certainly do that specifically for the purposes of building length. Because the number is actually embedded in the variance itself. But again, that's a comment and something to consider. So members.
Okay, I'm just going to reiterate, if we're not using the numbers on the drawing, there's no point having the drawing attached.
Well, there is if we want to clarify that the building length is as per these drawings, just for that purpose.
Now, can you have your microphone on, Don?
It would be relevant if we thought it was important to determine the length of the building per the drawings, not the erroneous numbers that might be on the drawings, but just the length of the building.
The variance.
In other words, it's the two juts on the lower left-hand corner and the one at the back. Those are the ones that are determining the building length.
And the variance is for building length. I recognize that.
And they're also varying the FSI. But the FSI that they're requiring is stated in the notice. So if we approve this application, we're approving an FSI of 287.87, regardless of numbers that appear anywhere else.
Remember, we're not approving a drawing. We're only approving the variance. And we're tying it so that it restricts it to that portion only. That's the intent of this decision if the committee proceeds with that. It will not grant an additional, it won't grant them the ability to build 323 square meters. The only thing it would do is capture the length of the building and the way it's been designed and presented. Okay, all right, so may I have a motion, please? Member Taylor?
Madam Chair, I find the variances to be in keeping with and satisfying the foretests of the Planning Act. I'm going to table a motion that it be approved, subject to urban forestry conditions 1 and 2, and that for building length purposes, they will be per drawings A01, A02, and A03 on file with the Committee of Adjustment.
Thank you. May I have a seconder, please? Can I second the motion? Okay, so as a chair, I also have the rights to vote and put forward a motion. So I'm going to second the motion. All in favor of this motion? All opposed? The motion is that the did you?
Oh, I thought you were approving.
Okay, so you were, oh. So the motion is approved. Okay, all right. So the application is approved. Oh, sorry. Subject to the conditions as mentioned. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Take care.
Take care. Item number 16, we held it. So this is 19 FERNCROFT Drive. 19 FERNCROFT Drive. Okay, we have with us Jonathan Binskowski as the agent. Jonathan, you're with us?
I'm here, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. And we also have the neighbor, Frank B. Croft.
Good afternoon, I'm here.
Perfect, thank you very much. Members of the committee, we have an application before us to permit construction for new dwelling. And we have 4 variances. Any questions for the agent at this time? Presentation, okay. All right, Jonathan, before we proceed with Frank, to speak with Frank, do you have any comments or remarks at this time?
Yeah, a couple of things. Although this is considered a new house, the intent was to do it as an addition. There was a small sunroom in the back that really created the technicality of this becoming a new house. So the actual floor plans that are submitted do indicate almost all of the existing basement portion being retained. Again, it's just because of a small technicality with a sunroom at the rear that this is considered a new house. That being said, that really doesn't affect any of the variances that are before you today. Just a quick note. If we could go to my support material that I've submitted on the screen.
You submitted some materials?
Correct.
In terms of the easement?
No, in terms of a just a site plan as well as an elevation with some notes I put on them.
So, okay. So you mean the site plan, basically?
Plans, yeah.
We can use the site plan. Correct, Madam
Okay.
Chair. I can do it through there if we don't have the other one.
No, we have one
We
that
got it.
is marked up with red lines, so I believe that's the one you're referring to.
That's the one I'm referring to, yeah.
Okay.
Perfect. So if we could just zoom into where the revision bubble is. So two of these variances directly pertain to this portion, which I believe is adjacent to my friend, the objector that's here. The proposal is to build in line with the existing wall there located at the north property line. That proposal is to add 2.13 meters in building length while maintaining that setback that is there at the front. That directly pertains also to the eave request that maintains the existing eave level that is there. And if we go to the next page, we would be able to see that there in my document. Here we see the dotted line of the previous house that's there at the front. So that is maintaining that existing eave that's there today. In terms of the addition on the other side, meaning the south side, if we look on the right portion of this elevation, there it's a modest 0.49 meter side yard addition. That side is in keeping with the zoning bylaw requirement of 0.45. So essentially, the application before you today is for an entire new second floor in addition to a 2.18 meter rear yard addition. Now, interestingly, with the variance for the FSI as well as coverage, the dwelling is only 15.53 meters in building length, some 1.47 meters below the 17 meter max requirement. So the request for that small reduction on the north side is really the only built form request that is before you today. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have right now.
Thank you, Jonathan. Any questions for Jonathan? Okay. Member McKay?
Yes, I think so. I just wanted to deal with the matter of eaves. So you've got, I think it's on the north side, you've got an eave that will have a, a zero distance. You'll be on the lot line with that. We generally don't like to see that. So you can comment on it.
That's not a, the eave on the north. That is the existing eave structure that is there today. We're not changing that setback at all. That is being maintained exactly in line with where it is today. So the dwelling, even if it were to stay and we were to put a rear addition, that eave would still be in line with that right there. With what's there now. What I can tell you now is the positive with this now becoming a new home is that a grading plan will be required. That grading plan will have to show the eaves and where all of that rainwater would have to be directed. So in terms of the impact and what's there today, we're really maintaining exactly what is there today, except moving that eave encroachment from the first floor to the second floor.
Okay, I understand. Okay, I understand.
Thank you, Member McKay. Any further questions? Okay, see none. Thank you, Jonathan. We will now move to speaking with Frank Beecroft. Frank, you with us?
Yeah, I just wanted to start by saying that, well, good afternoon, everybody, but I just missed, half of what he was saying because the sound disappeared.
Oh, with regards to the presentation or his commentary on the eaves?
The comments he was making in regard to the eaves, his response to the question from the committee member.
Is that pertinent at this time, or is that relevant at this time, or would you like to proceed with your comments first?
Oh, well, sure, not a problem. So, I mean, just a general comment is that to me, the variances that are being asked for here are not insignificant or inconsequential. And then I'd like to just sort of add that, the configuration of these properties, if you look at my property, I'm in 21 FERNCROFT. If this project goes forward with those variances in mind, if my neighbor on my other side decides that they want to do the same thing, then, I have a dining room window that's on my north wall. That means probably I could reach out my window and touch a blank wall on the other side. So I just think that going forward with this is going to create a dangerous precedent, whether that's, if this type of project is permitted within the bylaws, then fine. But to me, this is not a very good situation. Anything like that is going to block out the sun. I mean, my window right now opens to that little courtyard that you see on my north side.
Mr. Beecroft, can I get a clarification? So your comment regarding your northerly setback, do you meet the setback today with respect to the lot line on the north side? Are you encroaching within the setback?
Are you talking to me? Sorry.
Yes, I am talking to you.
And I'm not sure exactly what you're referring to.
Oh, so you referred that your northerly setback is let's say
No, I'm saying I don't have any issue with the setback here. I'm saying that if you approve it the way the plan is now, if you're looking at the southern setback variance that he's looking for, that going forward, create a situation where if my northerly neighbor decided that they want to do the same project, I'm going to be basically looking at that same situation with a blank wall.
Yeah, but your house is also it appears to be encroaching within the setback, right? You're fairly close to the property line yourself.
That house has been there for from 1948. So what am I going to tell you?
Okay. I don't know. I just wanted to confirm that what's going on there. Okay.
If that's the case, I mean, you would be more familiar with the bylaws than I. I'm just telling you the house was constructed, I believe, 1948. So.
Okay, no, fair enough. I just wanted to confirm that. All right. So coming back to your comment, you're right. Okay, so carry on.
Oh, well, that's really it in a nutshell.
Okay.
Is that why can't they move? Why can't they just build? Based on the existing lines, I guess.
Okay, all right, no, thank you. If there's nothing further, then we will move on to speaking with Jonathan, and Jonathan will be able to respond to all your concerns. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jonathan?
Yes, the good news is we are building exactly within the setbacks there. We're just doing a 2.13 meter addition within that existing setback, adjacent to my friend at number 21. So we aren't further reducing any setback, rather just building in line with what's there. And the other thing I would address with in terms of looking at a blank wall or loss of sunlight, we have no request for a height variance that is before you. The request is only for that 2.13 meter rear addition. If this house were to be built in line without that 2.13 meter rear addition, we could go right up and we could actually increase the height with what's there, because we would be building in line with the existing exterior wall there. Kind of if we were to go back or if we stay on this survey, I have a feeling these houses were all kind of probably built as an original plan of subdivision, because if we look, we definitely see a rhythm of a side yard setback at the north that is reduced and one on the south that is larger. What I can say to that is our southern setback is in line with the zoning bylaw requirement of 0.45 meters. The request is not for the addition to the south. The request is rather to stay in line with that with that existing northern side wall with that 2.13 meter rear addition.
So I guess at this point, what we can clarify with Mr. Beecroft is, and Katrine, if you can highlight on the drawing that the majority of the house is existing at 0.25 setback, correct? All of this, all the hatch that you see is all existing. The only addition that is being sought as it relates to that setback is that portion. So Katrine, maybe just that corner as it relates to the setback on the north side. Just that piece there. Top right corner.
That's correct.
Yeah, right there. So the only extension is this portion, and it is sort of just following the line of the wall of the house. And that's what is being sought for, is the reduction in the side yard setback. So I just wanted to clarify that for everyone's benefit. And I think that there's certainly a pattern here. The northerly setbacks are all reduced. If you look at the southerly property as well, does seem to be a common pattern there. So it's just a little extension there at 0.25 meter setback. Okay. Anything else, Jonathan, that you heard from Mr. Beecroft that you would like to respond to?
I think that's it. I think the concern really was to a neighbor adjacent to him on the other side doing that, which I'm not really here to address what may happen to the north.
Okay, thank you. And then as committee, we can't comment on that because we're not considering that matter. Member Macaulay, please go ahead.
Madam Chair, I just wanted a piece of clarification. The purpose of the application is to permit the construction of a new dwelling, includes the construction of the rear addition and side addition. My understanding, and I may be wrong, was that they were going to keep the dwelling, the existing dwelling, and build a new second floor and a rear addition? Or is it that you're going to tear the whole thing down and build a new building here? It has relevance as to whether he's maintaining the side yard setback from 1945, or whether he's taking advantage of it.
That's a good one.
Yes, and through you, Madam Chair, myself and Katrine really went back and forth on how to write this notice, because this was something that came after the fact from the zoning reviewer. The initial application, exactly as it is before you today, was as a renovation. When going back, which I'm not quite sure why the examiner would do so, we didn't propose any changes, came back and decided that the gazebo along the southern portion, they were going to consider it a part of the dwelling, which now when we took this down, it created it to be an existing house. So now if you, maybe Katrine, what might help is if we went to just the actual floor plans that are filed, we can see through the hatchings the walls that are what we are going to be maintaining of it. The intent is not to build a new dwelling here. It is for that renovation, and it will be reflected on the plans that have been filed that we can review when it comes on the screen.
I don't see a floor plan part of the agenda.
Just the standard which was filed with the application, just the regular AIC floor plan set.
That I don't have.
The one-story brick dwelling at number 19, is that what you're referring to?
Yeah, just our floor plans that we've submitted with the application, just the architectural drawings.
Is that on the AIC?
Correct.
Okay, so it wasn't attached to the agenda package? It's okay. We'll pull it up, no worries.
Okay, so I'm sorry, I am now totally confused. Just tell me, are you building on top of the existing first floor structure in the same location as that first floor structure?
Yes, we are. And that's reflected on the plans. That's what I was trying to show you through you, Madam Chair, Ms. McCauley, was how the walls are identified with different hatchings for what's new and what's existing. But that is exactly what we are proposing, is to maintain that first floor. The other benefit from maintaining that first floor is that there is an existing window that we would not be able to have due to a setback. So the intent always was to maintain that northern wall of the first floor.
Okay, and I acknowledge that on the second floor, when you build it and you put in the new eaves troughs, even if they are going to be at zero, you're going to have them drain into the north or into the east and west. They can't drain into the side yard at all.
Absolutely correct. And that will be done through a grading plan now that this is considered a new house.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
So, Member McCauley, I'm looking at the floor plans, and I know Katrina is trying to bring them up too. But what I see is that the original walls are on the north side are being maintained, and that portion is on just an extension. Okay? Katrina, that should be okay. Yeah, I've pulled up the plans from AIC, so. Okay. All right. Any further questions for Jonathan? See none, okay. We'll take the matter into committee now. Members of the committee? Any question? Oh, sorry, any comment? Okay, there are no comments. And can someone confirm if there was a urban forestry condition here?
Yes, 1 and 2.
1 and 2? Okay, all right. So Jonathan is aware of the urban forestry conditions?
I am.
Okay, all right. If there are no comments, can I please have a motion? Member Said?
Madam Chair, I'm willing to move the motion for approval of item number 16, subject to the condition of urban forestry.
Thank you very much. May I have a seconder? Member McCauley seconds the motion. All in favor of this motion? The motion's carried. The application has been approved, subject to conditions of urban forestry.
Thank you.
Okay, 59A JEAVONS Avenue and 59B JEAVONS Avenue. This is item 17. And we have with us Peter Jerusik.
Hello?
Hi.
I am present.
Okay, perfect. And we have Mr. Tom Casanda. Tom, are you with us?
Yes, I am.
Okay, thank you, Tom.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you. Okay, just hold on for a few minutes and we'll come back to you. So, members of the committee, we have we have 59A JEAVONS Avenue and 59B JEAVONS Avenue. Can we deal with this together? Okay. And the application is to permit the construction of new 2-story detached dwellings with integrated garage and finished basement. And for 59A, we have 3 variances. And for 59B, we have 3 variances. Okay. Would you like to have Are there any questions for Peter? Okay, I see none. Peter, members of the committee do not have any question at this time. Do you have any comments or remarks before we proceed?
I just wanted to point out the houses are built. The application was just for a larger deck they built at the back. So the houses are already built, and we had an approval for that. And they just the clouding on the drawings show that we just are building. They built a larger deck than what was on the building permit. So we're trying to clarify that issue.
Okay, so maximum permitted area of platform, and then lot coverage, and then the minimum rear yard setback, and that's for the deck, correct?
Yes. So and on this deck with all the coverage issues, and this is the kind of catch-22 situation here, is the bylaw deemed this house to be a 3-story. Because when we were building it back in the day, they determined that the majority of the ground floor, if it was higher than the basement, was deemed a 3rd story. So this was designed as was classified as a 3-story house. Therefore, that deck off the back is classified as a 2nd-story balcony, as opposed. No, that's the front porch. It's sorry if I don't know, Katrine, that deck there.
Back.
That's considered a 2nd-story deck, even though it's off the ground floor. Okay. So we did build it larger than it is, but because it's on the it's now considered a 2nd floor, the ground floor. Then it's included as a coverage because now it's a balcony and the space underneath it and whatnot. I did have a chance to speak with zoning department because currently applications coming before it, if the front porch is within 1.2 meters, the whole ground floor is now classified as a 2-story. Much like, if you recall, my previous application, 178 South Woodrow, it was designed the same way, but now the definition of story is defined as at the entryway, what is the story. So even though this is under a new application, this would be considered as a 3-story. The catch-22 is they're reviewing this deck as per the permit drawings, which back in 2017 classified as 3-story. So we're requesting this additional deck. However, and this is the kind of rock in the hard place, if we get denied, for example, we can apply and we get the permit closed, we can apply for the same deck and it will comply because now it's a brand new permit. But because we're doing a revision to an existing permit, which classified as a 3-story, that's why it's classified as a 2nd-story deck, which is the minimum 4 square meters, and all the coverage issues comply.
Okay. Thanks, Peter.
If I made myself clear there, I don't know. I know it's. Let me know if you want
it's
some further
clear.
clarification.
It's clear as mud for now, but we'll see how we proceed. It's quite complicated, but we'll get to it. Let's first listen to Tom. Tom, are you with us?
Can you bring up my presentation?
Yes, Tom. So we have received your presentation, and we have given it a thought. I would appreciate if you can sort of summarize rather than going through the presentation line by line, if that's okay with you.
That's kind of, I have a prepared statement within my 5 minutes,
Mm-hmm.
and it's kind of hard to do because of the flow of what I'm trying to point out. So I was wondering if you could give me a little leeway, and I'll be as quick as I can.
Mr. Cassandra, the issue I have is that I have, I guess, 5 or 6 more items for the rest of the day. So I would be really, really grateful if you could try to summarize everything in 5 minutes. But we'll see. But when you get to 5 minutes, we'll see. But what I was trying to say is that because we've had your presentation, we've had the time to review it in detail, going through it again will really not help.
Understood. I understand. Then what I would like to do, though, because as you see, this is an unusual thing, and I do want to take a moment to apologize for some of the errors in my letter of objection, because there are probably about 70 pages of information, and some of it's not easy to understand. And I misunderstood it until late in the evening when I discovered that although my concerns about it not being minor, the justifications I had were completely incorrect, and I wanted to correct those. So if you've gone through my presentation, you understand that I understand that you're going to be looking at this just as if it had not already been built, and to ask the question, is this request minor? And what I'm trying to, our issue, unfortunately I can't use my prepared notes now, but I do have to point out that the fact that Mr. Bernkowski, and I'd like to, if you could go to the second slide, because this is important. Mr. Bernkowski argued at TLAB that the elimination of the deck at the rear reduces any impact on the neighboring properties. And I assume that he's referring to this deck, which did not appear in the drawings that he presented to TLAB. So he built, that was part of the case that was built. So he basically knew that that deck would be a problem in terms of impact to the neighbors, so they took it off and allowed themselves to get a TLAB approval to justify a larger house and all the other variances they wanted. Now they got that approval. That approval is based on the fact that they're supposed to build substantially to what TLAB approved. And they fundamentally didn't build substantially because an increase in 11% lot coverage implies a substantial change must have been made. It would take a really significant analysis to find all that stuff, and unfortunately volunteers like myself who are standing up for the community don't really have the time to do that, but it's obvious on its face. The other thing is that the bylaw says, in the variance as it's suggested, it says that it points out that this deck is 100% larger than the deck allowed bylaw. Okay. So bylaws mean something, and 100% increase is not minor. A 10% increase is not minor, as in a 10% tax increase is not minor. I realize the whole idea of minor is complicated by not having a definition, but there are so many reasons for this to be a problem. So Mr. Bernkowski made a case, and then now once he got his TLAB approval, and if we can go to slide 3, they decided without asking permission, they just built the deck. So the thing I don't understand is, did they get a building approval for this building and then just decide that they wouldn't build as per the permit? Because I think that's a problem. It becomes a shell game where they hide the true nature of projects from COA and TLAB, and you're trying to play hide and seek. If we can take a look at the next slide, slide 4, you can see that this is the difference between what they showed at TLAB and what they're proposing now. And what I find this is rezoning without consent. Developers have figured out that they can't change our bylaws, so they just make incremental changes one at a time. And what that means, if we can go to slide 5, is that we are taking away the community values. Bylaws are there to protect the community, its current current nature, and open backyards without people with decks way behind looking over your yard are part of what is valued in the community. And if we don't look at stopping this rezoning without consent, we end up with the potential for, if we go to slide 6, the fact that what if everybody does this? And that is what we are concerned about, because I heard in a previous hearing that it was said that this new development, well, it's in keeping with some of the other new developments, even though it's a variance, even though it's not within the variance or within the bylaws, it's in keeping with these other things. And it's a one-by-one step down the road to losing our shared green space. It's mostly the principle that I find very disturbing, that someone can basically go to TLAB to overrule the COA's original decision on this, present something slightly different, and then come back to the COA and try and get another approval, having already done it. So I ask for you to consider that a 200% deck size is not, increase in deck size is not minor. And I ask you to give us a chance this time to reject this so that we can go back to TLAB and ask them if they feel that an 11% increase in lot coverage, 13% decrease in setback, and 200% increase in deck size is respectful of their previous decision and in accordance with the intent of the favorable ruling that Mr. Jerusik got them to believe was right.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Cassandra. Your time's up. Your comments have been noted. Any questions for Mr. Cassandra at this time? Okay, thank you. Thank you for your time, Mr. Cassandra. There are no questions for you at this time, but please stay with us and, we may come back to you for something. Mr. Jerusik, can we have you back?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. So I just want to check we didn't have anybody else. Yes, okay. Please, could you please respond to Mr. Cassandra's comments?
The house was built in accordance with TLAB, what was approved plans. The issue is the deck. And just to reiterate, this deck is classified as a second-story balcony as of 2017. The definition has been changed that now if we applied, it would have been a two-story house, and that would have been the deck off the ground floor, which would not have had these restrictions. Because there's an open permit, zoning review staff has indicated to me they have to review it in light of the zoning that was reviewed back then. That's why, because it was classified as a three-story then it's still a two-story until the permit is fully closed. So that's the catch-22 here. And I've had a conversation again this morning with them to verify this. If the permit is closed and then we apply for a brand new permit, then they look at it in light of how they're defining it now. And they would look at it as true enough, we're 1.2 meters from the foyer is 1.2 meters from the front, so it's only a two-story house. That's a ground floor deck. So these variances are in light of it's an open permit, and they're reviewing it in light of how they would have reviewed it 2017. So the issue here is, if it gets denied, we have to remove the deck, close the permit up, and then we can apply again for the same thing. But to save the aggravation to my client, we applied for a variance to allow this same situation.
Well, again, Mr. Juris, if I can just clarify, I understand and I appreciate, how the previous zoning regime would consider this under other regulations than it's today. But when it comes to the variance itself, like the size of the deck, you're also asking, I don't think that the new bylaw allows for a deck to be more than 4 square meters, which is contributing to your lot coverage, I'm assuming, right?
No, 4 square meters is for any deck above the ground floor level. That's why this is considered the second floor right now. But when we go back, if we went back to the city, if the permit was closed, under now they would consider that the ground floor as by current definitions. Like that previous application.
And you would not need that variance for the size.
No, because that's only for decks above the ground floor.
I see.
So now, all we're doing here is trying to avoid, because during the process this changed and the client built a larger deck. Even the original zoning bylaw came back. He said, okay, just go for a larger deck. And it was only planning department said, well, because it's considered now a second-story deck, we have to increase the coverage as well due to the space underneath, and that's why they added those additional variances.
So let's say if you were to close the current permit and apply for a new, and get out of that, and then you come back with a deck, right? You will not be before the committee for any of the variances that are listed before us?
No, because the deck would now be a ground floor deck.
Oh, okay.
And I had a conversation with, even this morning again, confirming with planning staff at the city regarding this. Right. Okay. So all this is helping us do is to avoid us from demolishing it and taking the other avenue to rebuild it again. That's the juxtaposition here.
I see. Okay, now that is helpful. Now I understand how it related to an open permit versus closed permit. Okay, members of the committee, any question for Peter? No? No comments, no concerns, no clarification? Okay, all right, I will take the matter into committee now. Any comment for the committee members? Okay, I see none. If there are no comments, then can I please have a motion? Member McCauley?
Madam Chair, I'm going to put forth a motion to refuse these applications if they are as minor as the applicant thinks, and if they can be resolved as easily as taking down 2 decks without our approval. I don't want to hamper him in giving an approval. So my recommendation is refusal. In what we have before us is not, in my mind, minor.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion on the floor for refusal. May I have a seconder? All right, the motion, there's no seconder, the motion fails. May I have another motion, please? Member Taylor?
Madam Chair, I find the requested variances meet the 4 tests under the Planning Act, and I recommend approval, subject to urban forestry condition number 3 doubled.
Thank you. May I have a seconder to this motion?
Yes, Madam Chair, I'll second that motion for approval.
Right, do we have a seconder? Mr. McKay, all in favor of this motion? All opposed? Right, motion carries. The application has been approved subject to conditions of urban forestry. Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
All right. The next item. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yes. The next one should be short. Sorry?
I did ask security.
Oh, the heat. Oh. Oh,
I'm wearing my winter coat.
So.
Sorry for that aside. Let's proceed with haste. Deal with the Hispanic matter.
4 to go.
Number 18. Marble Arch Crescent.
Thank you.
I'll remind everybody that the sound is on.
Okay, I know, but come on, it's a time of the day. Okay, we now move to item 18. Item 18 is 70 Marble Arch Crescent. And we have Robin as the agent. Robin, are you with us?
Yes, I am.
Okay, thank you. So Robin, I'll try to, in the interest of time, I'll tell you what happened this morning. We received a memo from Urban Forestry recommending refusal. So committee had a choice of making a decision or giving you an opportunity to speak to that recommendation of refusal and help us understand what's going on there. So that's why we held it. So committee members, if you allow me, I'd like to ask that question to Robin. What is your position on that recommendation, and can you give us some background?
Yes, I can. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Mm-hmm.
So the variances that we're asking for are due to the irregular lot that we're dealing with. They actually pertain to the 2-story new addition at the back of the main building. We had our application in for the October hearing, Committee of Adjustment hearing, and we chose to defer it so that we can work with Urban Forestry.
Mm-hmm.
One of the concerns with Urban Forestry originally was that we were asking to remove the large sugar maple that you'll see that now we're retaining in the big deck. The tree, so in response to their request to keep that sugar maple, we decided to remove the basement of the 2-story new addition and take that living space and put it over the 1-story garage proposal. And so now it's actually a 2-story. With that being done, there is a tree that is just directly behind the garage. The property owner has been living on this property for about 42 years. It's actually, the house is on the original farmlands of his family. So they've seen these trees grow from saplings to what they are now, and they are substantial trees. When he's had several arborists come to the property to review the trees after several storms we've had over the years, and just as a general maintenance caretaker approach. The consistent comment that he's gotten from arborists is that the tree that is directly behind the garage, so the one that's marked as 510 millimeters in diameter, just right by the revision bubble, one over. So that tree, he has been consistently told that if there was a storm, that tree, given its nature, will fall towards the driveway. So he's now, about to have another baby, has a small child, and the decision to move the living space on top of the garage has raised some concern about potentially that tree, if there is a storm, falling and damaging the neighbor's property. So that's really the tree that we would prefer to see removed. But like I said, we have been working with urban forestry on this application, and we will continue to work with them on the application. And we understand that there will need to be an application for injuring or removal of trees. So our conversation is still going with urban forestry.
Okay, so the memo from Urban Forestry recommended denial, but they mentioned that if the committee chooses to approve it, that there be a application. Can you, Katrine, show me on the plan which tree are we talking about, or exactly?
Not that one, sorry. If you move your arrow over to the right and then up, where it says over to the, yeah, there. You were just on it. Yeah, that one.
Oh, this large tree. Oh, that
tree there, yes. Yeah.
So the removal would be for that tree.
That's what we would like to do, yes.
The 510 millimeter dia. Okay.
Yeah, that's the one that we've been consistently told will fall towards the house. All the other trees are going to fall the other way or not towards the house.
Okay, and this is the same tree that Urban Forestry had issues with, right? Okay.
No, so the original tree, which we are now working with and which has has sort of been the compromise, is the large 1120 millimeter diameter tree.
Oh.
That one we originally proposed to remove. Our arborist had said that it wasn't in good condition. Urban Forestry didn't agree, so we said, okay, fine, we're
Okay.
fine, we'll keep that tree. But in respect to that tree, we've taken the basement away from the two-story addition.
I see.
Because the basement would end up damaging that tree and likely
Okay.
injuring it. So we've taken that space and put it on top of it.
Okay, thank you for that explanation, Robin. Members of the committee, any questions for Robin? Member Said.
Thank you, Robin, for your very good presentation on that. Just for clarity's sake, if you just give us a number, like I recall in the previous meeting we discussed there were 5 trees. So at this point of time, like how many trees are still you are working with the urban forestry to be injured or removed, and how many trees are going to be saved there? Just could you give us the number on that?
Yeah, so we're requesting to remove 1 tree. And that the tree, the large 1120 millimeter tree will likely, we'll need to work with them in terms of limiting the injury to that tree.
Okay. So the 1121, they will work with urban forestry to limit the injury, and the one that they're proposing to remove is the 510 millimeter diameter, which is the closest to the new story addition, right there. 510 millimeters.
510. I'm looking at the urban forestry memo,
Yes.
and there is a picture given there which says 54 centimeter.
That's a sugar maple tree. So what's that tree, Robin? The one on urban forestry's memo, the privately owned sugar maple tree measuring 54 centimeters. Which one's that?
That's the same one.
Oh, that's the same.
I believe the measurements were taken by urban forestry and they're also taken by an arborist.
So 510
On our
millimeters is
tree,
51
if you go to our
centimeters.
tree plan, we show it as a 54 in our tree.
Okay, all right. Perfect, thank you. All right, thank you very much, Robin. Members of the committee, any further questions or clarification? I see none. Do you want to take the matter into committee and make a decision on it? Okay, all right, please go ahead. Member Macaulay?
As I understand it, the variances really don't have anything to do with the trees.
Well,
we're asked to approve a number of variances. They are working with urban forestry to try to resolve it. Even if we approved it, there would be with the condition that they have to continue to work with urban forestry. Is that not correct?
well, the condition from urban forestry is that, well, the first recommendation was denial, but they said if the committee approves it, then the applicant needs to submit a complete application for permit to injure or remove.
Through the chair, one of the variances is it's a rear yard setback variance, which is directly related to the tree that's in question.
Sorry, whether the tree stays or leaves, I'm not sure that it impacts the rear yard setback.
Which tree are you talking about? I think this is the
I think
large
it's
tree.
time we had a break. Figured out what you're doing.
No, I think that's the larger one, Colin.
Sorry,
Yeah.
through the chair, that is correct. Like
Yeah.
the development is not, they're not building on top. They're not the development. They're not building on top of the tree. You're correct. The tree is within the requested reduced rear yard setback.
So the second to your question, Member Macaulay, or clarification, the second variance is not related to the tree that is being proposed to be removed. Okay? That setback is tied to the larger tree, which has now been encompassed within the deck. Okay? All right, so motion, please. Member Taylor?
Madam Chair, I find the two variances requested to be in keeping with the four tests under the Planning Act, and I recommend approval subject to urban forestry condition number 2.
Thank you. May I have a seconder, please?
Yes, Madam Chair, I'll second that.
Member McKay seconds it. All in favor of this motion? The motion's carried and the application's approved subject to condition of urban forestry. Thank you.
Thank you, committee.
Okay. See, I told you it would be short. I knew. Okay, item 19. We will look at item number 19, which is 61 Kildonan Drive. And this is an application to permit a new two-story south side addition and a new rear deck. Previous building permit was issued to construct a two-story rear addition and did not require variances. So we have with us Leo Mastandria. Leo, you're with us? Okay, thank you. Hello, yes, we can hear you. Okay, the other, the members in opposition, Zhang, last name Zhang and last name Fan, are you with us?
Through the chair, Zhang and Fan have not checked in today at all.
Okay, all right. Members of the committee, any questions for Leo on this application? Oh, Mohammed has a question, please. Sorry.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to ask Leo that he's clear about the transportation recommendations that the parking space must be entirely located within the private property. And you agree to that?
Yes, I do.
And you are also aware of the urban forestry condition number 2?
Yes.
Okay, if that is the confirmation, Madam Chair, I will be willing to approve this application. Yeah.
All
Thank
right,
you.
so Leo has confirmed that the location of the parking space will be entirely within the private property without extending. He has no further questions or comments. Leo has agreed to it. Any comments? I see none. All right, we take the matter into committee. Just checking with everyone, are there any comments from urban forestry on this one?
Yes.
Okay, all right. And Leo, you are aware of the conditions of urban forestry and you have no concerns?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Committee members, if no questions or comments, may I please have a motion? Member Said.
Madam Chair, I would like to move the motion for approval of item number 19, subject to the condition of transportation as well as urban forestry.
May I have a seconder, please?
Yes, Madam Chair. Pleased to second that motion for approval.
Okay, Member Mackay seconds it. All in favor of this motion? The motion's carried. The application has been approved.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, let's move on to item number 20. Did we deal with this? No, we didn't. Okay. Item 20 is for 22 FLORA Drive. It's a minor variance application to permit a second-story addition to the existing dwelling. And we have before us one variance. This was previously deferred by the committee in November 24 to provide for proper notification. So we have with us Thomas, you're with us?
Yes, speaking.
Thank you. Henry Tolentino, the owner, is with us.
Henry is no longer checked in today.
That's okay. We have his agent. Melissa Lowe, are you with us, Melissa?
Melissa is also no longer with us. She was with us earlier and wanted clarification on this application, but she's no longer with us now.
Okay. So Melissa, you're no longer with us and we are going to be dealing with this item. So members of the committee, any questions for Thomas for 22 FLORA Drive? It's a fairly straightforward application. In my opinion, this is indeed minor in nature. There's no doubt about it.
Just a clarification, Madam Chair, there's just one variance asked for, is that correct?
Please.
Yes, right, all right.
It's only one variance for the front yard setback.
0.4 meters.
Okay.
I agree that the tests are met and I'm willing to put forward a motion for approval.
Okay. So we have a motion on the floor for approval. May I have a seconder, please? Member Macaulay seconds the motion. All in favor of this motion? The motion's carried. The application has been approved for 22 FLORA Drive.
Thank you.
Sure, no problem. Okay. So for those of you listening, we'll just take a quick 5-minute refresher break and we'll be back with you in 5 minutes. Thank you.
Opposed.
I think we should move to upstairs.
Yeah, boy, and in the new year, we're starting at 9:30, and I'm thinking what I'm going to do is I'll work from 9:30 to 12:30, and then I'm going to take a 45-minute break. And, the rest of the committee, they still have quorum. If they want to continue without me, fine. And then I'll be back for an afternoon session. No? Anyway, we're not getting paid enough either, frankly, for all this work, yes?
I think we're coming to the big. I find it embarrassing.
Yeah. Wolf down another nature bar. So, okay. I think we just have one left, Dan. This last one. Oh, it's consent and, yeah, that's right, consent and, right. Oh, this is the one with about 20, a whole bunch of opposition, right?
I went out and took a look at that. Interesting area. Very, very stable.
I was just discussing the lovely weather, Madam Chair, yes.
Guys? No, they're all locked.
The opposite of Hotel California.
Okay. Thank you, Katrine. Okay. We started? Okay, thank you. Welcome back, everyone. Thank you for your patience. We are now at the last item on the agenda today, item 28, and this is for 20 Gildcrest Drive. The application before us is for a consent and a minor variance application, consent to sever the property into 2 residential lots and to construct a new detached dwelling on each lot. For each of the parts, we have 6 variances. And at this time, I would like to go through the list of registered participants. So Jonathan, you're with us.
I am here.
Okay, thank you. We have the immediate neighbor in opposition, Helen and Jerry. Helen and Jerry, are you with us? Okay, we know you're with us. You're with us?
Do you hear us?
We can hear you now. Thank you. Please stay with us.
No, but we're not scheduled to speak. We're just listening.
Okay, so you're
My
not...
other neighbor, M, is supposed to be speaking on our behalf.
Okay, thank you, Helen, for confirming that. So I will repeat, Helen and Jerry are not going to be speaking. They're here to observe only. Okay, thank you very much. We have in opposition, Tony Lombardi.
Yes, I'm on the line. I'm actually speaking for Helen and Jerry.
Okay, thank you. Then we have Jax Lupien.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, thank you,
I
sir.
will be speaking.
You will be speaking?
I will be speaking.
Thank you. Kim and John Kramer.
I'm here.
And you will be speaking, correct?
Yes, I will.
Okay, thank you. Tom Casanda.
I'm here.
Thank you. Helena Pyers and Stephen Krausch.
Through the chair, these people have not checked in today.
Okay, thank you very much. Helena and Stephen, you haven't checked in today, but if you're listening and you wish to speak, please dial in. You have a few minutes to check in. The next on the list, Karen Andrade.
Through the chair, Karen has not checked in today.
Thank you very much. Karen, again, if you're listening in, please, and if you wish to speak, please check in over the next few minutes. And I did confirm this morning that, actually not, I didn't confirm. Kate and Bruce Barron.
I'm here.
Okay.
I'm here, but I'm not speaking, hon.
Okay, and you're just observing, correct?
We are, yeah. When I registered, I put just hearing.
Perfect. Thank you very much. I was just checking to make sure. And then we have Mary Barr, also observing.
She was checked in. She's no longer here.
Okay, thank you very much. So Mary, we understand that you had checked in, but you had registered yourself as not a speaker, but just as an observer. So, that brings me to the end of the speakers. So we have Tony, Jax, Kim and John Kramer, and Tom Casanda as speakers. Okay. So let's go back to the application itself. Committee members, we have the application before us. We also have a staff report from Community Planning refusing the application for consent to sever and the associated lot frontage and lot area variances for both parts 1 and 2. We also have, for record, a letter from councillor with an objection to this application. There's no support. We have the memo from the ECS, no concerns, but just some conditions and comments. We also have a memo from transportation, and no, not transportation, from urban forestry, and I believe there were some conditions of urban forestry. And on record, we have 43 letters of objection. So how would you like to proceed? Are there questions for Jonathan at this time? Would you like to have a presentation, or how would you like? Mike.
I would like a very short, maybe if we could keep it to 2 minutes, presentation from the applicant.
And is there anything particular you would like to hear? Your mic is off.
Particularly the layout of the properties, of the severance application, and the setback requirements in as they apply to where they are proposing 2 new dwelling units.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, Jonathan.
Yes.
All right. So you heard Member Macaulay's request for a very brief presentation, no more than 2 minutes, in helping her understand the layout of the sites, layout of the lots, and I believe you can shed some light on the actual consent application as well. Thank you.
Yes, Katrina, if we could go to my support materials that I filed. Oh, sorry, they're on there. So the first picture we have here, this is quite a unique site in where the location is relative to the rest of the neighborhood. So this is kind of the bottom part of a Y where the street kind of forks into 2 different directions. So this is essentially a property that has 3 frontages associated with it. And we can see it here in this first picture that is before you today. Now, Katrina, if we could go to page 4 of my material. So what I've done here is I've kind of taken that draft R plan and really shown you what these associated frontages are as they're visible from the street. And I respectfully understand Ms. Macaulay's request, but I am going to dive a little bit into some official plan policies because I do think it's very relevant in this case as it pertains to the lot division itself. So if we look at what we see from Guildcrest and Crestwood Drive, these are the relative frontages of the dwellings. So the relative frontage of what we would see along Crestwood Drive itself is a frontage of 29.13 meters. That is 95 feet in frontage. The request before you is for 26.13. The zoning bylaw interpreted it as where the front yard setback is taken from. That's the minimum frontage. But even at 26.13, we are talking about an 85-foot frontage for a dwelling for part 1. If we look at part 2, we have a relative frontage again along Crestwood of 26.873 meters and a relative frontage of Guildcrest of 30.493 and a zoning bylaw request of 24.6, which is still 80 feet. These are extremely large lots that are being proposed before you today. And if we could go to the next slide, I can start to dive into Ms. Macaulay's questions of the division of the land. So what I've done here is I've ordered all of the property data from the City of Toronto as it pertains to the frontages for these properties. Now, we have to be very careful when we talk about words like destabilization and setting a precedent. So these words are all great to use in planning terms, but we have to back that up with where that would take us if this were to be approved. So if we take our subject property at number 20, we can look at the largest properties to the right of that, Katrine, which are kind of where Guildcrest Drive and Crestwood come to the curve at the right, where we see 52.63 as well as 52.08 meter relative frontages. Now, there's a very big difference between the lot pattern of this side of Guildcrest and Crestwood to where the proposal is before you today. Both of these properties to the right are essentially arcs. So they're a quarter of a circle each property is. So the opportunity for a consent along that arc is simply not there. And that is even with the 52.63 meter frontage, because of the entirety of the property being an arc, there would be no way to subdivide these to get to anywhere close to the proposal that is before you today. As we continue over to the other side of where this proposal is, we see the other larger lots. Now, these other larger lots, for example, at number 4 Gildcrest being 49.99 is a lot it's on the left side of the screen, right almost at the intersection of Gildcrest and Scarborough Gulf Road. Yes, we see that this is actually a lot that severely tapers front to back. So to use the word precedent and to use the word destabilization, we need to look at where an approval today would lead us. Okay, so in terms of being able to duplicate and replicate what is being proposed before you today with these other large lots. Now remember, the consent application before you today requests frontages of 26.13 meters and 24.6 meters. Again, 85 and 80-foot lots as per the zoning bylaw. So the replication to lead of large to end up with lots that are that large is just simply not possible. Now, if we could quickly go into a quick official plan policy. Oh, sorry, and I had one other just to deal with through you, Ms. Chair, Ms. McCauley. If we could go up 2 slides there into my photo book. In terms of the front yard setback, I think that was what Ms. McCauley was referring to. What we see here is the adjacent properties. So this is the adjacent property on Crestwood. If we see the heavy shrubs that are adjacent to this dwelling, you can see the green space of the proposal behind you. And if we go up 1 screen, also, I think it's 1 screen, Katrine. We see the exact same thing there. So this is the adjacent property now on the Gildcrest side. There is such heavy trees and shrubs that in terms of creating a street wall, that is entirely blocked by the existing street trees that are there. In addition, as you come in off of Gildcrest Drive into kind of this bottom part of the Y fork, you don't even see the adjacent dwellings that are there. If you go up 1 screen, Katrina, it will illustrate it quite well there. So here we are. If we were to come in, we want to establish a consistent street wall frontage. Here, due to the heavy trees that are there, the idea of this sticking out in front of every other house and negating that street wall just simply isn't possible. Now, quickly, if I could just go into an OP policy with the consent, I have a feeling I'm going on a little bit here. But I do think it's important to review an OP policy that speaks to...
Jonathan, if I can just interject, you're over your 5 minutes, so you may want to start concluding your remarks, please.
Okay, so essentially in conclusion, the OP specifically speaks to neighborhoods not being static. As we see, and even from a lot of the letters that are submitted, this is a neighborhood that does not see a lot of change. And there's nothing wrong with that. But the OP specifically addresses change being gradual and it generally fitting, and that neighborhoods should not stay static in time. With the proposal that is before you today, this is not something that is at risk of destabilizing the neighborhood or of having other individuals in the neighborhoods now look at a 30-meter lot and say, I'd like to create 2 15s. That's fine, but that should be evaluated on its own, not against what we're proposing before you today at 26.13 meters and 24.6 meters.
Okay, thank you very much, Jonathan. Okay, appreciate your time. In the fullness of time, there are a few speakers who are waiting to speak. So we will move on to speaking with the first member here, Mr. Lombardi.
Yes, I am here.
I don't want to.
If I could ask Brian to bring up the characteristics of the Gildcrest neighborhood slideshow, please. And as I go through my presentation, I will ask him to flip the slides just by saying the word slide, please. Greetings, Madam Chair and COA committee members. I thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today. My name is Tony Lombardi. I'm an active member of the Cliffcrest Scarborough Village Southwest Residents Association. My parents have resided at 5 Gildcrest since 1974, And I'm speaking on behalf of Luciano and Serena Lombardi, as well as Elaine Leduc and Jerry Sau, the residents at 5 Crestwood Drive, the neighbors to the north and east of 20 Guildcrest. Guildcrest and Crestwood Drive are established neighborhoods. They're adorned with natural beauty, and it's been maturing for over 80 years. And it's home to a lot of retired residents along with young and growing families. The Guildcrest and Crestwood neighborhood is not averse to change. Appropriate development projects are well received, yet many area neighborhoods are being overrun with projects that do not consider the interests of the existing residents. They alter the fabric of the neighborhood and do not fit within the framework outlined to create a balanced and harmonious connection to the area. At a recent COA hearing, one developer, including this one, says, change is coming and it's going to happen no matter what. The residents need to accept this. Well, he's absolutely right. Change has been occurring throughout these neighborhoods since they were built. In my lifetime, almost every single property on Guildcrest and Crestwood has been renovated or changed at some point in time. The difference is that the character of the neighborhood has remained intact, the fabric has remained the same, and there's always been discussion with the community first. Guildcrest Drive and Crestwood Drive have phenomenal natural heritage. Guildcrest Drive backs onto Toronto's natural heritage ravine system, and many types of wildlife use this neighborhood as a habitat and migration corridor. So the residents know the value of the mature and healthy tree canopy and its contribution to the greater broader community of Toronto. This proposal at 20 Guildcrest will literally clear cut the entire property of all its mature trees and cause severe damage to any of the remaining boundary trees. Not one. Let me repeat that. Not one property on Guildcrest Drive has ever been clear cut in pursuance of a development project. There is no need to bulldoze the entire property when designing within the already generous zoning and bylaw framework. Ellen Leduc and Jerry Sau recently bought their house at 5 Crestwood and renovated to create a comfortable and private property. They were surprised to see the plans for this new build and lot division. Slide, please. Their privacy would be compromised. They would need to be required to reassess their living space, and they would have to reinvest to reestablish their privacy. They found it offensive that the owner of this project did not approach them at all to discuss their plans. Dividing the lot creates a number of issues for both neighbors. Privacy, natural light, adjacent properties will be severely affected, and the egregious setback variances will create a tower over the adjacent properties. The division of the lot also alters the fabric of the neighborhood and will also create an undesirable precedent within the neighborhood. Part 1, Variance 1. It shrinks the lot frontage from the bylaw measurement of 81 meters to 26 meters, a reduction of 67%. This is not minor. Variance number 2. It proposes to reduce the lot area from the bylaw of 1,518 square meters to 724 square meters, a reduction of 52%. Again, this is not minor. Variance number 3, rather than aligning with the established front wall of 9.21 meters, this application proposes to remove the front wall from forward of Helen and Jerry's home by 1.71 meters. This 19% variance is not minor. Again, variance number 5 proposes a roof height of 8.46 meters from 7.2 allowed. This increase of 17.5% again is not minor. And variance number 6, the rear yard setbacks. The minimum required rear yard setback is 8.07 meters, and to the two proposed setbacks of 4.91 for the back wall and 4.3 meters for the deck setback is a reduction of 40% and 47% respectively. Again, this is not minor. The minimal setbacks will also create proximity issues related to surface water runoff, as indicated in the grading plan, and the increased shadow cast from the very tall roof lines will overshadow both neighboring properties. Responsible development is respectful and courteous, and responsible development works with the neighbors, invites discussion, and fosters clear communication. Madam Chair and Honorable Committee, I respectfully request that the committee refuse this application in entirety.
Okay, thank you very much. No, thanks, Tony. Any questions for Tony? Okay, thank you. No questions for you, Tony, at this time. We now move to Jax Lupien, and my apologies if I'm not pronouncing it correctly.
Yeah, it's Jacques. Sorry, Madam Chair. My name is Jacques Lupien. I live at 7 Gilcrest Drive, and I'm also speaking on behalf of Tony Sodaro, who resides at 23 Gilcrest Drive. We've all been in this area for about 30 years. This proposal includes 12 variances. Let's remember that. That's must be a record. And I'm not going to go over in the interest of time. We have been listening to you today because my colleague, Mr. Lombardi, took all of my stuff away. So I would just add one more variance to the ones that you've, the FLORA area I don't think was mentioned, should be 317 square meters, and this proposal actually increases that by 14% and 27%. Fine law. The problem, well, there we go. So the rest of it is basically, again, I think Tony did a really good job of mentioning how this doesn't fit into the neighborhood, and that it doesn't matter which way you look at it. You know, 12 variances, one each more absurd than the other, doesn't fit in. And I think the applicant, I was listening to him, has a very vivid imagination. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Jacques. Appreciate your time. Any questions for the resident? Okay, I see none. Thank you. We move on to Kim and John Kramer.
Okay, you've got Kim here, and I will be speaking.
Okay, perfect, Kim.
Good afternoon. Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for allowing me to speak today. My name is Kim Kramer, and my family and I live at 22 Gilcrest for almost 30 years. Slide 8 on page 5 shows my home, if you could pull that up. Since becoming aware of this proposal, I've been upset and filled with anxiety. It's affected my ability to sleep and eat. My home is directly adjacent to the Part 2 portion of this development. This entire proposal will dramatically change the privacy that I currently have in my front and backyard. I'm here to express how this will impact not only my property, but my entire life and lifestyle. I'm asking you for your support and understanding. As a family, we spend a lot of time outside enjoying our front and backyard. We're blessed with lots of sunlight throughout the day and enables our garden foliage to thrive. It's the home where my family and friends gather all summer long for front yard chats in the sun. I'm the mother of twin boys, one of which has cerebral palsy. The use of our front yard is critical to his mental health and physical well-being. He socializes and plays sports, including basketball hoops. The street kids join him in fun and support. We do not want to unnecessarily impose sightline restrictions to cause safety concerns. No one spoke to us about this plan. I would like to address the major items that are causing me the most concern. The next slideshow will show my front yard with the proposed home. I call it the wall. The next slide will show my view from my front walk. And then the next slide will show the proposed home. Variance 4. The proposed front setback is 7.5 meters. This is a 54% reduction from the 16.35 meters the bylaw required setback. You can see the cruel nature of this proposal that will completely alter the nature of my front yard. Who would do this? What neighbor would do this that plans on living next to you? This is not minor. Variance 5. The proposed height is 8.77 meters, a 22% increase in height over the maximum height allowed of 7.2 meters. This is not minor. But I guess if you're going to tower over your neighbor, you might as well go big. Variance 6. The proposed requests 3-meter rear setback, a reduction of 63%. The bylaw required a minimum of 8.07 meters, leaving a tiny little backyard while pushing this home right next to us. This is not minor, and it does not belong in this neighborhood. The renderings show clearly the magnitude of the change that this proposal will inflict on our home, which eliminates our privacy. Alyssa at Central Tree Care, who's an ISA certified arborist, advised that the proximity of these new houses to the mature trees on the property will most certainly cause damage leading to death of the trees. In fact, one of these trees is a 100-year-old, very healthy, beautiful black walnut tree. City planners set bylaws that created a balanced and respectful approach to development. This proposed development detracts from the natural beauty and removes privacy. It removes sight lines and creates safety concerns. Allowing these two homes to exceed the front yard setback that every other home in the neighborhood respects sets a dangerous precedent that can only lead to increased chaos. Could you go to the next slide, please? Responsible development maintains and respects the existing and natural features of the community. The existing bylaws are not restrictive. They are responsible and should be respected. Today, I'm asking that you continue with the vision of the city planners. When you look around this neighborhood, you'll see they're right. What they created was lovely and special. Please don't permit this destruction. Therefore, I respectfully request that you reject this application in its entirety. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim, for your comments. Member Macaulay has a question for you.
Yes, and it's a question of clarification.
Yes.
I believe you say you are at number 22, Gilchrist?
Correct.
The plans show 24.
Yes,
That's fine.
I'm just looking at the plans. Would if you could,
Yeah, the plans are, they show 24. It's
I've
probably
got page
mislabeling.
1132, A1. The plan shows 34. And so,
24.
shows 24.
I was quite confused with this because it looked like I was just eliminated off the map.
No. I think there's been a little bit of a mislabeling there. You're still there. Your house is still there. It's just been mislabeled.
Yeah, and I think when we look at number 24 versus 22, which I thought may be on the other side of the road, you can see the impact on this property. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Member Macaulay. Any further questions? I see none. Thank you, Kim, for your time. We now move to Tom Cassandra. Tom?
I note that they have the wrong presentation up. We edited it down, but I can make it work if you just give me some leeway here. I want to explain, so first of all, I am the president of the Cliffcrest Scarborough Village Residents Association, and I live at 26 Windy Ridge Drive, and I love this neighborhood. I want to explain that the renderings shown were developed using a scaled modeling process matched to the positions of the camera views. The massings cannot be truthfully disputed as materially incorrect, and if anybody should question that, I can explain the methodology used in your follow-up questioning. If you can go to slide 14, page 9, well, actually, it's slide 14 on the numbering on the slide. So I'll direct you if you can pull up the slides.
Just bear with us. Katrina is pulling up the presentation. Yeah, it's the same presentation.
There are similar slides, but the slide the presentation we were speaking to was cut down substantially.
I'm not sure, but what we have on the agenda is what Katrina is pulling up.
That slide is perfect. That's perfect. We can just go from there.
Okay.
So the previous speakers have shown that this application falsely proposes these variances are minor. And I just want to make the point that Mr. Jarusik has said that these are really large lots. He's true that in Toronto, these would be really large lots. But in the character of this neighborhood, the lots he's proposing would be dramatically smaller than anything else. And we are talking about the character of the neighborhood. If we can move to slide, the next slide, please. So this shows the character of these backyards and dramatizes why these variances are so small. If we take a look at the next slide, please. So this shows the dramatic difference, and the question is why are these houses, why are those lots so small, and why is the FSI so out of scale? Because these are ridiculously large houses relative to their, in this neighborhood, undersized lots. In fact, looking at this, the green line is what you are allowed to build to. And you can see that you can build a house 3 times the size of one of the neighboring houses and still be under this line. But this proposal asks for 2 houses that are both above that line. They want even more. It's absurd. If you can go to the next slide, please. Oh, sorry, the next slide. I'd cut this one out. So next slide. Yes, if you add these missing lines here, it makes it quite dramatic as to what these setbacks really are. And we can really understand this. If we go to the next slide, we can see that the developer understands the value of space between the buildings they want to sell. They're twice the space between their houses and the space that they're leaving between the houses that already exist there. I find that very telling. If we can move to the next slide, please. And I will be wrapping up fairly shortly. Sorry, this one was cut out. If you can go to the next slide. You can see that there are trees. These are the trees there. And although Mr. Jurusic's pictures seem to show them all in place, these trees would either all be killed by because the house is right on top of them, or because they'll kill the root systems when they dig the foundations. And so so when you look at pictures, you need to take that into account. If we can go to the next slide, we'll see that these trees are part of the character of the neighborhood. They're very important, and if we go to the next slide, we'll see that these trees will start to disappear as this home starts to build. Okay. Now, if we go with some of the other places where other houses like this get built, then the whole character of the neighborhood starts to change. If we go to the next slide, we'll see that this is a neighborhood where this particular house would fit in quite well, and that the variances would probably be not a problem, and the character of the neighborhood would be as such. And if we can go to the next slide, we can see that, actually we'll have to probably skip through it. Please carry on, just skip through. So we get a few more houses, and then if we can carry on, we can actually get to the fact that this house could fit in with the neighborhood if we allow the developers to carry on in this process. My wife and I do, as many neighbors, enjoy taking long walks in the community. The Gilcrest, like so many streets in the area, has come to feel of an open rural community or country road. To lose the trees, to become a facade of lined
Okay. Mr. Cassanda, please start wrapping up your presentation. Thank you.
Yep, I'm almost done. To lose the trees and become faceted lined trees of Toronto with reduced setbacks through attrition of proposals like this would be a tragic loss and one that cannot be undone. So in my final slide, I just want to point out that if we could find a developer who would respect the character of the neighborhood, they could build a big house. They could just build a house, but they could build a big house, and it would still have the possibility of fitting in. Madam Chair, Honorable Committee, this application does not meet all of the 4 tests. It does not even attempt to. We respectfully request the Committee of Adjustment not support the developer's attempt to rezone without consent. Please reject this application in its entirety.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Cassanda. Any questions for Mrs. Cassanda at this time? Thank you. No comments or questions. Thank you for your time. I will now go back to Mr. Jonathan Benskowski and not Mr. Jurusik. Jonathan?
Hi.
Hi.
Yes.
You heard the comments and concerns raised. Please address those. You have 5 minutes to address those comments. Thank you.
Yes, a couple of things. My friend who was just speaking addressed the egregious FSI that's being proposed. If we actually look at the FSI of Part 1, it's 0.5. So we're proposing an FSI that is at 0.5. In terms of the FSI of Part 2, that is a 0.46 FSI. That is not egregious by any terms. When we examine impact and we look at what's there, we have to look at the way a property has been appropriated on the land. And Katrina, if we could go to the proposed site plan. And while we're doing that, to address the issue of trees, I'm not an arborist, I'm not an architect, I'm a professional planner. I rely on other individuals who are professionals in their field to make comments on that. As you know from urban forestry, they do have the opportunity, and they often do request a denial of an application if they see fit. That is not the case here. So this went through the City of Toronto vetting procedure from forestry and did not have any comments associated with it. When we talk about privacy, if we could just zoom in, Katrine, maybe on between what really is 22 and the subject property. The proposed side yard setback between this proposal and the existing dwelling that is there is 3.32 meters. That is basically a 10-foot side yard setback. So when we talk about a loss of privacy, that simply isn't the case when we have a 10-foot setback. In addition, these are grade-related homes. There is no decks proposed along the second floor. Now, Katrine, if we could actually go to one of the elevations in the architectural set, I'd like to address some of the comments that were made about the proposed height of the building. So the request for height for the building is for a flat roof dwelling. If it were, which it is not, granted, to be a pitched roof dwelling, the height would be 9 meters that would be permitted. Now here we have the front. We actually have a dwelling that is 7.24 meters essentially in height. The request for the additional height, now Katrine, if we could go to one of the side views, the request for the additional height is for a middle architectural feature in the middle of the house. That right there, as we see there, is the only portion that is essentially above the 7.2 meters. That is located in the middle of the house. So in terms of privacy and shadow, we see that that is not the case because the dwelling really is at 7.2 meters, save for an architectural feature in the middle of the dwelling. And again, I reiterate, at a pitched roof house, this could be 9 meters in height. Now, if we could go back to the site plan, and I'm trying to speak as quick as I can, Madam Chair, to get as much info in here as possible.
Mm-hmm.
If we look at where the house is appropriated on the land itself, we discussed where these setbacks are located and where they are. It's important to note where we're requesting these in relation to the adjacent dwellings. So because of the shape of this lot and where it's located, we have a rear yard at number 20 that is essentially a deck. All of the amenity space for this is located really along the Crestwood Drive. That's only further helping any type of privacy overlook for my friend at number 22 that would be afraid of that, because all of that amenity space is actually located along the opposite side. In terms of privacy from the dwelling that basically fronts onto Crestwood, again, we have no side yard setback requests. This is just a product of where this lot is located. And I understand that the idea of protecting a neighborhood is there, but we have to look at the policies of the official plan. The official plan dictate that neighborhoods should not stay static in time. And I want to just in closing reiterate the frontages and the size of the lots that are being proposed. The frontages of part 1 is 26.13 meters or 85 feet with an associated floor space index of 0.5. The frontage associated with part 2 is 24.61 meters or 80 feet with an associated FSI of 46%. When we look at consents, we often look at what variances are born out of the consent that leads to an overbuild. These are dwellings that are 12.18 meters wide by 15.37 meters in depth. They don't request side yard setback variances, and I do believe that the transition of coming in off of Gilchrist makes the reduction in the front yard appropriate for this development. So I'm happy to answer any questions the panel may have.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Bensowski. Any questions for Jonathan? Checking again. Any comment, any clarification, any question? I see none. Thank you, Jonathan, for your time, and thank you all the speakers for your time today. We now take the matter into committee for deliberation and a decision. Committee members, comments, please.
Madam Chair, I note that there is a report from the Community Planning Department.
There is a report.
That's what I said.
Oh, okay. We didn't hear you well. Sorry about that.
Sorry, it's getting late in the day. So to confirm, there is a report from the Community Planning Department. I've read it. I've considered it. I've been out on that site. I've taken a look at both the properties in the area and the properties closer to Kingston Road and to Scarborough Golf Club Road.
Okay.
In this area, according to community planning, there has been no consent applications since 1973. This is a unique area. There are unique areas in Toronto where the character of the area has been preserved to create that unique character. I don't think it's appropriate to disrupt that unique character. It's a stable area with zoning provisions. I'm reading their report to preserve the lot pattern as it currently exists. The approval of this consent application would have a potentially destabilizing effect on the neighborhood. Planning staff cannot support the application. I cannot support the application. I'm not going to address the variances yet, because if the consent application is refused, then automatically the variances also are refused.
Okay.
So I'll not make a motion.
Okay, so
I'll let someone else talk.
Okay, so this was a comment, and Member Macaulay's comments. Member Said.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Madam Chair. And I would really appreciate the efforts made by the agent and applicant or the neighbors. They presented their case very well in both the sides, right? Giving us a lot of details on that. I will go with Member Macaulay. Yes, first of all, we have to see the consent, whether the consent is a good thing. And I have a strong feeling that this change is not going to be fit into the character of the street or culture of the street. And it's going to have an adverse effect over the neighborhood, their privacy, or the trend which is already prevailing there, the front yards, the back yards, the privacy. So this is going to be upsetting and setting up a wrong precedence there. So even without considering the number of the variances there or the size of the variances there, I will not support the consent application for splitting the property to that. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you. So that was a comment as well. And any other comment? Okay, I see none. All right, so we've had two comments and some thoughts. Members of committee, if there are no further comments, then I would like to have a motion on this application. Member Macaulay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move that the consent application for 20 Guildcrest Drive be refused based on the fact that it is a stable community area. This would have a destabilizing effect. It does not comply with the official plan policies. It is not compliance with the zoning bylaw. It is out of character of the area. It is not appropriate. In addition, the zoning bylaws that have accompanied this application should also be refused. Again, they are not appropriate. They don't meet the policies of the official plan or zoning bylaw, and they are not a minor variance.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor for refusal of the consent and the associated minor variance applications for 20 Guildcrest Drive. May I have a seconder, please? Member Said seconds the motion. All in favor of this motion? Unanimously carried. The application has been approved. Both the applications have been denied, refused. Thank you. That brings us to the end of the agenda, and thank you everyone for being with us today. It's been a long day, but thank you for your patience and assistance. The next item on the agenda, which is not an application, just want to make sure we have nothing there. There's no other business, and there's for information, the TLAB? Yeah, yeah. The TLAB received the decision. Oh, it's a decision? Oh, it's a decision.
Through the chair, it's a decision on, sorry.
Oh, do you mean the supplemental agenda? Yes. Oh, I see. Okay. All right. So staff provided us with a copy of the TLAB decision, which is for 10 Emmett Avenue. The application was appealed. The Committee of Adjustment had approved it. An appeal was submitted by an appellant. Both the appellant and the applicant reached a settlement, and the appeal application was withdrawn from the TLAB. Okay, so that was for information purposes. The other information is that the application on McCowan Road that was refused by the committee has been appealed by the applicant.
Through the chair, there was also, yes, that's right. Sorry, it's late in the day. Correct.
It is late in the day, but we got it all right. The date of the next meeting for the Toronto East York District is January 20th, 2021. And for the Scarborough District, it is January 27, 2021. Happy holidays, everyone, and enjoy your new year. Thank you. I will now adjourn the meeting.